Good afternoon, everybody. It's 6 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson. I am your friend and radio buddy, and you're listening to The Drive for this Friday, March 8th. That's right. We've got a lot going on here today. Remember, Fridays when we do, our Phone Your Farm Friday at 4:35 and 5:35. So get your thoughts ready for that. I guess I'll start with the State of the Union, such as it was last night. I'm not going to bore you with a bunch of sound bites from Joe Biden. By now, you either have heard them or read about them. But I am going to do some analysis of that speech and talk about, what an angry, sort of vitriolic campaign speech it was. So I'm going to start with this article that I found, and I thought, wow. This is good work here by the Federalist, Federalist.com. The article is Biden lied 30 times during the State of the Union. And they just went through, this is in chronological order. There's a lot of good points here that, you have to sort of fact check this guy because he throws things out. But just because he throws things out doesn't mean that that it's accurate. It really doesn't. So here we go. President Biden has been known to tell some pretty outrageous lies. So it came no surprise when Sleepy Joe spewed out a few more than a few whoppers during the State of Union. Number one, sending money to Ukraine. Biden claimed that Republicans who oppose sending additional U.S. taxpayer dollars to Ukraine are doing so because they want America to walk away from our leadership in the world. That's not true. Opponents of endlessly funding Ukraine's war with Russia have regularly stated that America's interests must come first before those of other nations. That's their point, not trying to walk away from leadership. Number two, Trump's NATO remarks. Biden claimed that former President Trump told Vladimir Putin to do whatever you hell you want with regard to Russia's invasion of Eastern Europe, but that's not an accurate telling of that incident. The former president's remark came during a recent South Carolina rally, during which Trump recounted a story from when he was president and speaking with a NATO member. Trump purportedly told the state that he would withhold U.S. support if they didn't pay their minimum defense spending obligations to NATO. That's a big point with him. You didn't pay, you're delinquent, Trump recalled telling the unidentified NATO member. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay. You got to pay your bills. That was the rather tongue-in-cheek comment that was made when he was talking to a NATO deadbeat country. Number three, world security in Ukraine. Biden claimed that the free world is at risk if the U.S. doesn't ship more American tax dollars to Ukraine. And there is literally no evidence to support that assertion. The president claimed the January 6, 2021 demonstrations at the U.S. Capitol and concerns and lawsuits regarding the integrity of the 2020 election posed the gravest threat to American democracy since the Civil War. Well, I think that's a little overblown. The J6 events did not put American self-governance in jeopardy, nor did it expose Americans to risks like those experienced during World War I, the Japanese attacks on Pearl Harbor, or World War II, just to name a few things. Alabama IVF issue. Biden falsely contended that the Alabama Supreme Court shut down IVF treatments across the state. And that's not what the decision said. As the Federalist Jordan Boyd reported, Alabama's highest court ruled that embryos are people with inherent value and not legal property. There's this one about Kate Cox. Biden claimed the life of Kate Cox, a Texas woman who left the Lone Star State to obtain an abortion, was at risk during her pregnancy. But Cox's now deceased unborn baby was diagnosed with trisomy 18, which is a condition associated with severe developmental delays. These children can sometimes thrive into their early 20s. Cox was not at risk of dying from the diagnosis, however. It was not an at-risk pregnancy. COVID shots and cancer. We don't know where this came from. Biden falsely claimed that COVID jabs are now being helped to beat cancer. If there's research out there, I've not seen it. The jobs. He does this all the time. The president regurgitated the lie that his administration had created 15 million new jobs. That assertion is totally false. because he conflates jobs recovered after COVID lockdown with actual new jobs created. Yeah, there were recovered jobs, but those aren't new jobs. The U.S. inflation rate, Biden claims the U.S. has the lowest inflation rate in the world. However, there are many countries that have a lower inflation rate than the United States. The president said consumer studies showed that consumer confidence is soaring. However, the Consumer Confidence Index fell to 106.7 from a revised 110.9 in January. I mean, do these speechwriters not check these things? Drug prices. Biden said he is ending the trend of Americans paying more for prescription drugs than anywhere else. That is false. Reuters recently reported that new drugs released by pharmaceutical companies last year were at prices 35% higher than in 2025. Oh, I mean, I'm going to skip over some of these. He says the corporations aren't paying their fair share. Big corporations and the very wealthy do not pay their fair share, he said. An organization such as the Heritage Foundation has reported wealthy Americans pay the large majority of taxes in the United States. Again, he just makes this stuff up. Biden falsely claimed the Trump tax cuts overwhelmingly benefited the very wealthy and the biggest corporations. However, data produced by the IRS has shown that on average, all income brackets benefited substantially from the Republicans' tax reform law, with the biggest beneficiaries being working and middle income filers, not the top 1%, that according to thehill.com. The Inflation Reduction Act. Oh, I mean, this goes on and on and on. Listen, I don't know if I'm going to get all through 30 of them, but I mean, I'm telling you, if you want to go through and just fact check, the malarkey, I'll use his word, malarkey that he was spewing last night 30 times during the State of the Union. It's on Federalist. That's thefederalist.com. I thought there was a guy who writes on Substack, one of those Substack writers. He calls himself Paul. He's at one point a speech writer and has done a lot of speeches and for presidential candidates even. And he had a couple of things that I thought were pretty good. He said that this was a backwards looking speech. And that was, he kept telling everybody what we've accomplished. But I think, when you are running for reelection, you need to tell people what you're going to do going forward. And so he went on to say, if you were to sum this whole thing up into one sentence, it would be, don't you idiots realize what a great job I've been doing? And then he said a very good point, and this is a stylistic thing. The tone was unwavering. He was just shout, shout, shout. When you're giving a speech and you're working your way up to a major point, you start, low, and you build and you build and you build and you give it a little momentum up to your major point, and that's when you put the emphasis on it. This was just shouting, 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 like that angry man telling you to get off his lawn. He said, Ernest Hemingway once said, never confuse movement with action. Shouting is movement, and it is not action. I thought that was great. You can't shout your audience into feeling uplifted. At one point, he mentions how the speech, the Democrats started going 4 more years, 4 more years. And he points out that the better chant for the Democrats in the chamber might have been 4 more different, or I'll add better years. So a lot of criticism there, and I think that's very accurate and on point. We learned last night that the president plans to deploy U.S. military to Gaza. Yeah, not to fight, but to build a port of some kind, so they can bring more aid. I mean, he's trying to walk that line of being supportive of Gaza because he knows the Arab voters in Michigan, where he needs to win, are very upset with him because he's been too supportive of Israel, but also needs to, of course, keep Jewish voters happy by saying that he's supporting Israel. So his idea is to bring, some humanitarian aid, but to do that, they're going to have to build a port, and to do that, they got to put boots on the ground in Gaza. What could possibly go wrong with U.S. forces on the ground in Gaza, even if they're there, ostensibly to build a port? You got to protect them. You got to send in forces to allow them to do their work. This is not going to end well. And that's a dumb idea. It really is a dumb idea. One times that last night he got off of the teleprompter was when he was sort of heckled by Republicans in the chamber for not calling Laken Riley by name. Laken Riley, of course, that young woman who was killed by an illegal alien. And when he ad-libbed, this is how it went.
Lincoln Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal. That's right. But how many of the thousands of people being killed by illegals?
Well, let's just unpack that for a moment. First of all, the woman's name is Laken, but not Lincoln. So he got the name wrong. And then he called, boy, the Democrats are all upset with him about this, about him using the term illegal. They don't like that term. You know, you're admitting that they're illegal, which of course they are. But they didn't like that at all. They really jumped on him about that. Democrats did. And then he's this mysterious thing at the end where he says, but how many illegals have been killed? How many people have been killed by illegals? Which is sort of the point. So once again, sorry. Well, I've got a jam.
Lincoln Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal.
And in this.
That's right. But how many of the thousands of people being killed by illegals?
Well, the reason that that young woman was killed because you allowed that illegal alien, as you call him now, an illegal, to come into the country. And you're right. That's a good question to ask. How many other people have died as a result of your policies, President Biden? He was asked about using the term illegal today.
Well, I don't. Technically, he's not supposed to be here.
Yeah, technically, he's not supposed to be here. So why did you let him in? My Lord, this guy, what a bonehead. There was a moment where, he's either coming in or out of the chamber. I think it happened after, where the cameras caught him talking to somebody. And you can't hear it. I'm just going to. He's talking about a conversation he had with Bibi Netanyahu, and he said, "We're going to have a come meet Jesus meeting." And then an aide said, "Mr. President, we have live microphones here. You might be sort of careful about that. You shouldn't be saying things like that, Mr. President." Just whispering in his ear. But he was asked about that today, and he said,
"I didn't say that in the speech."
What about after the speech?
You guys eavesdropping on things.
Does that show your level of frustration with him on humanitarian aid? Does he need to be doing more?
Yes, he does.
Yes, he does. All right, so there you go. What else? He wants to raise the minimum corporate tax rate by a whopping 40%. You want to drive the economy right into the dirt? There you go. There's a perfect idea for that. Would raise the corporate tax rate to 28% and the corporate minimum tax to 21%. Currently, the minimum corporate tax rate stands at 15%. After Biden implemented that earlier in his presidency, he would also refuse companies' tax deductions for employees making over $1 million. The president proposing a levy, a 25% minimum tax on the wealthiest 1%. Those with wealth of more than 100 million, he said. So again, you think that taxation, you say, well, honestly, we want to tax the rich. We don't want to tax the poor. You are taxing the poor indirectly when you tax these corporations, because guess what happens? You tax a corporation, you increase their tax rate, they have to let people go. How does that work out for you in the long run? The man's just a complete bonehead, and the speech was, I don't think much of all the presidential speeches I've ever watched, and I've watched a lot of them, and I've covered a bunch of them. This one is right at the bottom of the barrel, both in performance, in style, in substance, and in sheer lack of accurate information. You have to fact check every single thing that comes out of the man's mouth, because most of the time, If his lips are moving, he's not telling the truth, or he's shading the truth in some way. 21 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, I want to tell you about the folks at King & Associates Insurance in Brentwood, have been an independent agency for over 25 years. Listen, that's a good thing for you, because when you go to an independent agency, you're going to an agency that can do the right thing for you. In other words, if you go to some companies, they got one product, they sell you that one product, and they try to take a square peg and put it in a round hole. But you're an individual, right? And your needs may be different than that. That's the thing about King & Insurance. They can shop around and find a really good policy that truly meets your needs so that you're getting more insurance for your insurance dollars. And then customer service, that's a big deal. You don't want to be, on a phone waiting forever trying to get a simple answer about your particular insurance policy. Or if you need some help and you have questions, you don't want a phone tree, you don't want a recording. Well, if you call this number, 615-329-8121, you catch an actual person every single time. King & Associates, they're also the kings of the multi-policy discount, 20, 25, 30, 35%. So get your royal review today with King & Associates. Log into tkinginsurance.com. That's tkinginsurance.com. King Insurance & Associates, royal treatment and great rates.
Hey everybody, Dan Mandis here. Got my first shipment of emergency food from My Patriot Supply. Gonna make these pancakes. Now you prepare and cook them just like regular pancakes. But thanks to this special packaging, they last for 25 years. So when things go wrong, you are eating right with My Patriot Supply. And yes, they taste great. Now every week, I'm going to introduce you to different food. My Patriot Supply is America's most trusted supplier of emergency food. Head on over to my website, preparewithmandis.com, right now and see all the different foods that they have and all the great specials as well. That's preparewithmandis.com. Be prepared for anything with My Patriot Supply and preparewithmandis.com.
Another incident involving a United Airlines jet. We've got some crime in Tennessee, a suspect of a robbery on the loose, and UFO News, 3:30, Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Wow. So UFO news has made it into the regular newscast because, I know that story. It's pretty interesting. So Mac Morey's there in the newsroom, and Chris Webber is in the control room with all the blinky buttons. I heard to a grapevine that I was getting ragged on yesterday for not being in my chair, that y'all were picking on me just a little bit.
I don't recall that. Were we? Mac?
I don't know. But I mean, a slacker's got to get picked on every once in a while. So, I mean, no, just kidding. I really don't recall that.
Well, anyway, somebody said, I heard somebody who was last night who was at this event where I was, and I'll tell you more about that in a moment, said, yeah, I heard them. They were talking about you and, how you were out there slacking. I said, okay. Well.
I remember that. I do remember us talking about how Dan's going on a Disney cruise.
Yes.
A Disney cruise.
Yeah, we did talk about that.
I have done one, but I'll never do another. I'll put it that way. Well, no. So we had this event last night, and my friends Jamie and Carly over at Restoration Med Spa invited us to go to it. It's a Tunnels to Tower fundraiser that they hold annually, and it was a great event. Because it's not only are you raising for a great charity, and I really love that charity. They do a lot of good for first responders and Gold Star families, and I mean just a whole host of things that they're doing to help people who have given a lot to this country, and now they're trying to give back in their time of need. And I just love that the whole concept of what they do there. But basically the thing was they had musicians. Some of them were songwriters who had written some big hits, who, passed around some of their songs. And Daryl Worley ended the night. He was really good, sang some great songs. But the thing kicked off. I mean, nobody knew. They introduced Lee Greenwood, and he came up on stage and did, I'm proud to be an American. And, of course, that song, you played that song, and there's going to be a tear well up in my eye just about every time. And so I literally was about 10 feet from me. It was great.
Wow.
That's how close it was. It was
really cool.
It was a really cool event. And they raised a ton of money. I mean, there was some money in the room, and they raised a ton of money for Tunnels to Tower. And I won an item in the silent auction.
Really?
Would you like to see what it is? This is for
Absolutely.
for the people who are watching on Super Talk TV. You're going to love this. You ready?
All right.
All right. This is what I won.
Wow.
It's a painting of a cow.
Oh, I love that.
Isn't that great?
That is pretty cool.
That
See,
is
I
super cool.
have a thing about home decoration, and
That cow
yeah.
looks so silly. I love it.
Look, I showed it to Chris earlier, and he said, "Looks like the cow's about ready to go to get made a hamburger."
Yeah, it's like
It looks like a sad cow.
making its way to the processing plant.
Right. But the story on it is that I believe in every room in your home there must be an item of whimsy. So it can be beautifully decorated, but there's got to be one little thing that's sort of like,
sure.
whimsical.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I see something like this, I said, there's an item of whimsy. So I think it's going to end up here in my studio, although Cabana Wife said it should go up in our game room. So maybe it'll go up there. I don't know. But one way or the other, I just fell in love with it. My sister has a much bigger cow painting in her house, and they have a ranch. So, there's a reason for them to have a big cow painting like that. But I love her cow painting. I've tried to talk her out of it 2-3 times. She won't give it up. So I decided I would get my own cow painting today.
You got it. Yeah.
And so, but a great event. And thanks to Carly and Jamie for inviting us to the thing last night. And again, I don't normally take off to do these things, but, because of my shift, it's impossible for us to go to an evening event when you get off at 7 o'clock, because things usually start about 7. So I hope that you will allow me to have this one evening with my wife at a really good event. And again, glad to be back today. And thanks to everybody who filled in yesterday for me. I think Matt Murphy did a great job, and I appreciate him always stepping in when I need to step away. It is now time for the news, 30 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
It's 3:31. I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. At 64 degrees in Nashville. Got a wet day in Middle Tennessee. Chances for rain tomorrow as well. That's paired with the possibility of temperatures below freezing in the evenings this weekend. Weather forecast, traffic report coming up in 5 minutes. There's been another incident involving a United Airlines jet. Jim Ryan says that it happened this morning at Houston's Bush Intercontinental Airport.
At no cost to Hawaii, 80 high-tech fire sensors are being deployed. 20 of them will line Maui as an early warning system. New technology developed by scientists at the Department of Homeland Security using artificial intelligence to sense smoke and particles in smoke. Dr. Dmitry Kuzniev with Homeland Security says a new technology is still evolving through computer learning to know the differences in smoke.
And what does an anomaly look like? What is a barbecue? What is a fire? What is something else?
Alex Stone, EBC News.
That was not the United Airlines story. We'll get that to you, never fear. Crime in Tennessee. A suspect is wanted after robbing a bank at gunpoint this morning in Murfreesboro. Officials say that the criminal walked in with a revolver, demanded money, then left on foot. A K-9 unit tried to track down the suspect, but was unsuccessful. The robber was wearing a green hoodie, black ski mask, gloves, and a white surgical mask. And an exhaustive Pentagon report into more than 8 decades of government investigations on UFO sightings found no evidence of extraterrestrial activity in any of those sightings. Louis Martinez has more on what the report lays out.
This is a comprehensive report from the Pentagon office that's been looking into UFO incidents now for the last couple of years. They studied more than 80 years worth of historic documents and investigations into UFO incidents. They found no links, and most importantly, they found no evidence to suggest that the United States government or industry possesses any alien technologies.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Yeah, it's that time of year, it's up and down. It's up and down. Some days warm, some days cool, sometimes rainy, and your HVAC has got to be ready. Both sides of it, the heating and the cooling sides of it, have got to be up and running. If you have any problems, call the number I would call, 775-7833, and the good people at Busy Bee will buzz over to your hive and get you back up and running. But I'm telling you, you need to hear me on this. The way you avoid having problems with your system is to do preventative maintenance. And that's what being a member of the Beehive Club is all about. You get 3 thorough maintenance services on your systems, one aimed at heating, one aimed at cooling, one aimed at plumbing. No overtime charges 24/7 and 10% off all repairs. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling is your official Rude Pro partner. So for satisfaction guaranteed, call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, 615-775-7833, or online at busybhvac.com.
Hey everybody, Dan Mandis here. Got my first shipment of emergency food from My Patriot Supply. Gonna make these pancakes. Now you prepare and cook them just like regular pancakes. But thanks to this special packaging, they last for 25 years. So when things go wrong, you are eating right with My Patriot Supply. And yes, they taste great. Now every week, I'm going to introduce you to different food. My Patriot Supply is America's most trusted supplier of emergency food. Head on over to my website, preparewithmandis.com, right now and see all the different foods that they have and all the great specials as well. That's preparewithmandis.com. Be prepared for anything with My Patriot Supply and preparewithmandis.com.
It's 38 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy. We're so glad that you're with us on this Friday, March 8th. We are back in the saddle after taking a day off. And again, thanks to Matt Murphy for stepping in and so ably handling my duties while I was taking a day with the missus, if you don't mind. Okay, we want to talk about the situation on the border. First of all, you know, the president kept talking last night during the State of the Union about how it was, you know, the Republicans' fault. What was happening on the border was the Republicans' fault. And that if only the Republicans would just pass this bipartisan bill that we negotiated behind closed doors in a smoky room, and just you know, if they just go along with that, we would be a lot further on down the line. Well, you know, the problem is that bill is a disastrous bill, and really didn't solve the problem. You know, it gave Biden what he wanted, but it didn't do anything to secure the border. And after the speech last night, Brandon Judd, who speaks on behalf of the men and women who are serving the Border Patrol as their union representative. You know, the men and women, rank and file, cannot be on camera saying these things, but the union representative can go and say it. And he just unloaded last night after the State of the Union. Here is Brandon Judd.
Oh, first, I think that he slapped every American in the face. He didn't address what he could do. All he did was blamed it on President Trump. But look, I have the opportunity to speak with President Trump. I know that the reason why he didn't support that bill has nothing to do with politics. It has everything to do with the president understands that from day one he could step into office and do a lot more than what that bill does. He also understands that if a bill were to be passed today, that there would be no appetite to pass a better bill when he's in office. So he looks at this and says, I can do a lot more than this. I could actually hurt the country if I supported this bill, and that's why he doesn't. It has nothing to do with politics. Now, when you look at the reason that we support the bill is President Biden has put us in this situation. He has put us in the situation that we've never thought that we would ever be in. We're apprehending seven times more people than what we normally apprehend. We have more than 10 times the gotaways than we've ever seen. We've got more fentanyl coming into this country than we've ever seen before. We've got more dangerous criminals coming into this country than we've ever seen before. We've got terrorists on the terrorist watch list that are coming into the country. He didn't address any of that. So he's put us in a position that we're going to accept anything that is better than the status quo, and that bill is better than the status quo, but the president disagrees with it because he understands that he can do more than what that bill would do. So it's completely disingenuous that he's talking about a border bill and putting it on Congress when he has the executive authority right now to do more than that border bill would ever do, but he's not going to do it, because if he did something like that, he would be admitting that over the past 3 years, it's been his fault that we have this crisis at the border. So he didn't announce anything today that is actually going to help us secure the border.
Well, and he didn't do a thing. And he was right. Brandon Judd is correct. It's irritating. It's a slap in the face of every American who when you poll them, they are the first thing they say is they believe that the border is a serious problem in this country. Maybe even more important to what's happening with the economy, and what's happening around the world. People are concerned about the border and what it's doing to cities and towns all over the country, and whether or not they're safe. So, you know, when you hear Brandon Judd, you know, speak with such vehemence about this, that it explains to you how, you know, he's expressing the things that the frontline Border Patrol agents cannot say. They cannot say it because they're not allowed to talk to the press and talk about policy. But your union rep is freed from that, and when you hear him speak, you're hearing him express what he's hearing from the rank and file. And who do you believe on the border situation? The rank and file or the president of the United States? I know who I believe, and it ain't the president of the United States. Let's see. Also on the border, we have, well, the first thing I want to mention is, it took 40 minutes for the president to get 40 minutes into the speech before he approached and said anything about the border, which is the thing that we now know is on the minds of many, many Americans. And then he tried to deflect and convince everybody that it wasn't his fault. What a bunch of hooey that was. So, I also was reminded about this speech that he started 25 minutes late. Now, look, I think that being tardy or being late is about one of the rudest things you can do. I really do. To be late is basically you are saying to someone else that I don't respect your time, that my time is more important than your time. It's the height of rudeness to be late, which is why I tell you, I try to never be late. That was just drilled into me by my daddy. You can be there 5 minutes early or you can be on time, but you're never late. And I always try to live by it. Sometimes you get in a situation where you can't help it. Things spiral out of control. Traffic is a big one. Even though sometimes you leave and plenty of times you can get stuck in traffic one way or the other. But if I can help it, I'm never late. And the thing that bothered me about that was the president of the United States was being rude to all the assembled members. And by the way, to the Supreme Court, members of the Supreme Court there, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, all of the House Democrats and all the Senate Democrats and all of the House Republicans and the Senate Republicans, and by extension, you, the American people, you were wasting our time. And then even though he shows up late, he lollygags his butt around. It takes him 15 minutes to get from the back door up to the podium. And you know what else he did? This was lost on a lot of people, but I've covered so many of these things. I know the way they're supposed to go. The Speaker of the House is supposed to introduce the President of the United States after maintaining order. That gets a rousing, applause from whatever party supports him. In this case, the Democrats. And then when it dies down, the Speaker is supposed to say, "Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome the President of the United States, Joe Biden." And then there's another round of applause. But you're not supposed to start the speech until after you are introduced by the Speaker. It's protocol. You are the guest of the Speaker of the House. He never paused. He got up there and just started his speech. And you see the Speaker going, "Well, I was supposed to say something there, but let's just let it go." And he sits down and somebody comes and pulls his microphone down so that it's not in the shot, not growing out of the back of the president's head on TV. So, this is the whole thing. But, isn't it rude to have basically the entire country, because you can't get your act together to come 16 blocks with a police escort on an empty street? There's nothing on Pennsylvania Avenue when a president is moving from the White House to Capitol. Nothing. Everything is locked down. It's a straight shot. You can't get to the limo in time to be at the Capitol with a complete police escort and a motorcade. You can't get your butt there on time. How rude is that? Disregard. I'm the president of the United States. My time is more important than everybody else's time. It just, I know that's a small thing, but it really speaks to me about what kind of person he really is. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. Getting back to the border, a couple of things. Illegal Colombian immigrant on the terror watch list has been apprehended in Texas. Carlos Obed Yepes Bedoya, age 40, apprehended at the Texas-Mexico border by Customs and Border Protection last month. He is on the terror watch list. On February 21st, just days before former President Trump visited Eagle Pass and President Biden went to Brownsville, Yepes Bedoya was caught by the Texas Department of Public Safety, not even the Border Patrol, crossing near Eagle Pass. He is a Colombian national, and he was a positive match with the terrorist watch list, according to an internal agency memo. The memo said he was flagged as a group member, which indicates he's associated with a terror organization. No specifics were given about him, which group he's suspected of having an affiliation with. And again, it was the Department of Public Safety that arrested him, and then CBP came by and picked him up. Again, this terrorist was arrested thanks to Operation Lone Star, which uses the Texas National Guard and law enforcement to assist the Border Patrol in securing the border on Mexico. Now, thank goodness they were there, because if not, this person on the terrorist watch list would have just walked right through. Ugly, 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 ugly. The situation on the border continues to devolve, and it's going to be bad. And let me just make a prediction. And I don't want this to come true, but I just believe it probably will. We're in an election season, and this is not lost on the many people who want to come to this country. Not lost at all. And if you've been putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, and you're looking at the tea leaves and the reporting out of the United States, and you see that the polls now have Donald Trump in the lead, and in battleground states, and the reporting would likely filter back that many people are expecting that Trump will win this election. And you want to come to the United States, don't you imagine there's going to be a huge influx of people coming to the United States between now and election time? I mean, if you haven't already come, they sort of figure that if Donald Trump wins, the doors are going to be slammed shut, and they will be. Just like Biden could slam them today. Could absolutely slam them. And I just think that we're going to see the border situation devolve far beyond what it was as we get through the summer months, the peak travel season down on the border, and it's going to get bad. Again, we're learning all kinds of things about what the Border Patrol and what the Biden administration was doing to keep the numbers from being accurate, like, flying 330 people, 30,000 people into the United States in private planes. They never had to go to the border. We just went over and picked them up and brought them back. Why is that not a lead story on every major newscast in America? Because I think Americans would be outraged. And so far, there's been only limited reporting of that story, which seems to be all buttoned up with documentation and the whole 9 yards. So, we'll continue to watch the border situation, but it seems clear to me that things are going to get worse, much, much worse before the election, and we should just be braced for that. And God bless the Texas Department of Public Safety and all the Texas National Guard and our Tennessee National Guard, which are going down there to try to solve this problem and make America a safer place, because our government simply won't do it. The federal government is being lax in its responsibility here, and they're not doing the things that they're supposed to be doing. So, I appreciate Governor Abbott. I appreciate Governor Lee sending the troops. That's a big help. 50 minutes now past the hour, 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Boy, get ready, because later this month, March 22nd through the 30th, the folks at DT McCall have got a huge spring savings sale. And if you need an appliances, I'm looking at the flyer here. If you need a bedroom suite, if you need, how about this? They got a scratch and dent sale on appliances. And I always thought about this, every guy wants like a refrigerator in his man cave. You got to have something to keep the beer cold. And, save all the money. Think of money you could save by getting one of these scratch and dent items, and put it in there where it's okay. Nobody's really looking that closely in your man cave. You got a little ding on the side of your refrigerator. Then, again, that's the thing. As you go through this flyer, you see just whatever in the world you could possibly want. Appliances. Here's a page that has to do with mowers. I'll tell you, my Cub Cadet mower that I got at DT McCall, I love that more than you can imagine. It's a great piece of equipment, and it's one of the most effective things that I have in my tool shed. Now, listen, they've been around more than 100 years. They'll treat you right. Find out about their convenient locations: Carthage, Lafayette, Lebanon, Cookeville, Franklin. 5 convenient locations near you. Learn more at dtmccalls.com.
Hey everybody, Dan Mandis here. Got my first shipment of emergency food from My Patriot Supply. Gonna make these pancakes. Now you prepare and cook them just like regular pancakes. But thanks to the special packaging, they last for 25 years. So when things go wrong, you are eating right with My Patriot Supply. And yes, they taste great. Now every week, I'm going to introduce you to different food. My Patriot Supply is America's most trusted supplier of emergency food. Head on over to my website, preparewithmandis.com, right now and see all the different foods that they have and all the great specials as well. That's preparewithmandis.com. Be prepared for anything with My Patriot Supply and preparewithmandis.com.
7 months now since over 100 people were killed on Maui from wildfires, some possible legislation in Tennessee, a record-breaking winter, and Democrats upset with the president for using the term illegal last night when speaking of an illegal immigrant. Those stories at 4 o'clock. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
57 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. So look at the market report. Dow Jones Industrial ended the day in the red, down 68 points. S&P down 33, NASDAQ down 188. It's not been a particularly good week on the Dow or any of the major indices. But today, apparently driven by a jobs report, John Maxon from Beacon Capital Management is standing by with more on that. Good afternoon, John.
Hey, good afternoon, Brian. Yeah, not a great week for the market. All three major indexes logged a negative for the week. You know, we've gone through 2 days of the Fed speaking to Congress and the Senate where they really commented that they were not far from being confident that inflation was cooling. So everyone was watching the jobs report today really closely. The expectation was for 198,000 jobs created. That came in a lot higher at 275. That makes the market really nervous. Unemployment did go up just a little bit from 3.7 to 3.9. You think that's bad news, but really the Fed is continuing to want the labor market and wage growth to cool. So the market's a little nervous about the jobs number. We'll get some more inflation numbers next week along with retail sales. But for today, unemployment made the market nervous.
That's right. It's where bad news is sometimes looked at as good news, and sometimes the reverse is also true. Thank you so much, John. I appreciate it. Find out about all the things that they can do for you at Beacon Capital Management by going to their website, askbeaconnow.com.
.401, I'm Mac Maury with your top story. 62 degrees, a little windy and a little rainy right now in Nashville. Chances for showers tomorrow as well. We got a weekend weather forecast. Traffic report coming up in 5 minutes. Today marks 7 months since the wildfire that killed over 100 people on Maui. On this day, new technology is being deployed to detect future wildfires and to alert firefighters through text messages. Alex Stone.
At no cost to Hawaii, 80 high-tech fire sensors are being deployed. 20 of them will line Maui as an early warning system. New technology developed by scientists at the Department of Homeland Security using artificial intelligence to sense smoke and particles in smoke Dr. Dmitry Kuzniov with Homeland Security says a new technology is still evolving through computer learning to know the differences in smoke.
And what does an anomaly look like? What is a barbecue? What is a fire? What is something else?
Some legislation in Tennessee. Fox 17 says that a bill passed in the state this week, the Veterinarian Medical Practice Act. It's now been updated to allow veterinarians to file a report to law enforcement agencies if they have the cause to believe pets are being abused. House Bill 2079 also allows veterinarians to testify in court without violating veterinarian client-patient confidentiality. It's been a warm winter across the United States, breaking records. Derek Dennis.
A new report just released by the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration says this has been the warmest winter for all of the lower 48 states of the U.S. on record. 8 states, North Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan, New York, Vermont, and New Hampshire especially had their warmest winters on record. From December through February, the average temperature in the states was nearly 38 degrees higher than normal. Other weather records, Wisconsin had its first February tornado, and Los Angeles experienced its wettest February in decades.
Before boarding Air Force One to campaign in Philadelphia, President Biden stopped to answer a few questions from the White House press corps, including if he regretted using the term illegal in his State of the Union address last night. Karen Travers has the latest.
Asked if he regretted using the term an illegal to refer to an undocumented immigrant, President Biden told reporters Friday,
Well, I don't regret it. Technically not supposed to be here.
The White House says the president was responding to what was being, quote, hurled at him, repeating the language used by Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. White House Communications Director Ben LaBolt tells me
he was responding to language that was used in the House chamber.
And sticking with election 2024, the Biden campaign launching an aggressive $30 million ad buy over a 6-week period in key states. The president and vice president will travel to every battleground state in March. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy. You're listening to The Drive, hour number 2, and this is an hour that includes, a first round of Phone Your Farb Friday, which we'll be doing in about 30 minutes from now. So, get your thoughts together. We like to see who does better, the 4 o'clock round or the 5 o'clock round. It's not really a competition, and there is no wagering, but still, there is some pride, bragging rights. Which group you're in, we want you to do well. Don't let, so get your best thoughts together. You're not going to bail me out of this.
That's just your way of going, we need callers both rounds.
Yeah,
so don't disappoint.
Yeah, no. But really, honestly, some days the 4 o'clock hour is better, and some weeks the 5 o'clock hour is better.
Yeah.
And it's just funny. It's you could never predict.
No.
And so, I've sort of taken to considering it a competition of sorts. Let's go ahead and call this our 2024 update. We got a lot of things to cover. I'm going to go through some numbers real quick. Not a lot of numbers, and I know numbers are hard to follow, so I try to make these as easy to follow as possible. I'm looking at Real Clear Politics numbers and their average, where they take all the polls together and average them together. And so I think the polls generally, if there's a trend underway, it probably does not give you an accurate sense of it because the trend may be, the more recent polls are probably more accurate than the ones that have been out there for a while. But nonetheless, Biden's job approval now stands at 39.4% on average. That's taking a whole bunch of different polls that look at job approval, and he's underwater in a big way there, and not in a good place for an incumbent running for re-election. If you look at Biden versus Trump, again, the Real Clear Politics average has Trump leading by 1.8, but in a 5-way race, that changes to 2.7. That's right. So Trump leading in both of those. It's tight, but where you really got to look is the battleground states. Now, various publications have different battleground states. But if you look at on average, the battleground polls that have been Trump leads by about 4.2. That's getting almost outside the margin of error. And the battleground states are what really matter because, there's always going to be some states that are red and some states that are blue, but there are these purple states that can go either way that really decide elections. So when you see Trump up by 4.2 in the battleground states, that's a good thing. Now, Real Clear Politics finally has released their electoral college map. This is something I love. If this is where I get my political wonk on. I'm telling you, this is exciting. As I was saying, there are always going to be some states that are pretty reliably red. Tennessee is going to be a reliably red state. Alabama. You could go around and pick out states that are going to be reliable. Oklahoma, Texas, going to be pretty reliable Republican. And there's going to be some that are reliably blue, California, New York, and, and others. But it's the Real Clear Politics Electoral College map imagines that there are 9 states that are up for grabs. I think that's probably going to be winnowed down pretty quickly. Most people look at it as 7, but they're going ultra cautiously and saying that there are 9. Now, with the 9 toss-up states, right now, if you go with the reliably red for Trump and the reliably blue for Biden, Biden has 215 electoral votes and Trump has 219. All right, so where are we on the toss-up states? They say Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Minnesota, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Nebraska. All told, that's 104 electoral college votes. But I've been looking at the polls here, and I think you could probably before long call Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, and North Carolina for Trump. And if you do that, then Trump would pick up 49 additional electoral college votes, and that would put him at 268, which is just a hair under 270. So, I mean, things are looking really good for Trump at this early juncture, if you go by this. And, listen, the great thing about the Electoral College map is you can play around with the numbers, come up with your own scenario about which states will do well. But I think Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, and North Carolina are going to be pretty reliable states for Trump. And I think, he's at least in the early going looking like he might be able to find a pathway to 270. The No Labels Party had a meeting today, and they have decided that they will move forward with an independent presidential ticket. Now, that comes from Joe Lieberman and others who he's part of that whole thing. Joe Lieberman, the former senator from Connecticut. And so they're going to have a third-party presidential ticket, and they have decided to formally jump into the 2024 race, but they have not yet said who they would pick as their candidates. Now, Nikki Haley has said she's not interested, and Lieberman talked about that, saying that if she had been more interested in doing it, they would have liked that. They would have liked to have talked to Nikki Haley about that.
There would have been a lot of support in our group, but she's chosen otherwise, and you got to respect that. We are talking to some people that we think are exceptional candidates that represent, will carry forward the No Labels common sense majority.
Well, you got Manchin, who said he's not going to run with No Labels. There was some talk about Governor Hogan of Maryland, but he says he's going to run for the Senate, and he's doing well in there. He's going to run for the Senate in Maryland, so he's not going to be the No Labels candidate. We have Nikki Haley, who said she's not interested, and if she stands by that, and I think it sounds like she's gonna. She'd have to do a pretty amazing flip flop at this point, given all the things she said. But who knows? And then word came out today that Kyrsten Sinema. We talked about Kyrsten Sinema the other day because she made a decision that she was not going to run for re-election as a senator in the state of Arizona. Surprised a lot of people. And I sort of threw out the question during our round table the other night over at the Nashville Palace. I said, I wonder if she's talking to the No Labels people, because you get out as a senator, would you then consider a run for the presidency as an independent? And everybody went, ooh, that's a good question. Well, she says no. She won't pursue a third-party presidential run. She's out. Kyrsten Sinema will no longer be the senator, eventually will no longer be the senator from Arizona, and she will not run as an independent. Now, one of the things you have to watch in this coming election cycle is black voters, because black voters seem to be moving toward the Republican side of the equation in bigger numbers than we have seen, I think, in forever. I mean, usually Democrats are very reliable voters. Black voters are very reliable voters for the Democrats. But we understand that Trump may be polling about 21% support among the black community, which is huge. That'd be about 3 times what he had before. So, yeah, what's that all about? I think black Americans are I can't speak for them because I don't know for sure, but it seems like to me they remember that the Trump years were prosperous times. African-American unemployment was the lowest it had ever been, the lowest in like 50, 60 years. So, they remember that they were doing okay during the Trump years, and now they feel like they're not doing okay. And Charles Barkley apparently has a show, I did not know this, on CNN. I guess it's a weekend show. And he talked the other day about what is going on with black people and why black people may be moving toward the Republican side of the equation in numbers not seen before.
I'm only speaking for myself. The reason I think the Democratic Party and Mr. Biden, President Biden, is losing black votes is they only care about black people every 4 years. They come into our neighborhoods and say, we're going to make stuff better. We're going to do this, do this, do this. And then finally, us black people are like, man, other than my ability to dunk a basketball, all my neighborhoods are still the same. Our schools are still the same. And that's why I think black people are leaving disappointed in the Democratic Party, because I ain't going to lie. I voted Democratic every time just because I thought it was going to help black people and poor people. Because black people and poor white people, they're in the same boat. And I didn't care who the president was. I'm not going to lie. But I only voted Republican one time in my life, and that was for John Kasich. And I didn't even know he couldn't win. But then I'm starting to look like, man, I understand why black people are leaving want to vote for somebody else, because every 4 years they come into our neighborhoods and say, man, we're going to make things better for you.
But they don't. And he's got a good point. I think that there are many black Americans have come to the conclusion that they are being played for chumps by the Democrat Party. Oh, yeah, they'll be there for us. The black voters are always a reliable block of voters for us. But I got to tell you, if I'm Joe Biden and I'm seeing that my support among black voters is eroding, it concerns me a great deal because, this is going to be an election on the margins. It's going to be very, very tight. And it may be made up by the fact that 20% or 21% of the black vote is now moving over to the Republican side of the equation. Watch this. It's pretty important. Now, is there going to be a debate? No. I'll tell you right now, there's not going to be a debate between Trump and Biden. Although when Biden was asked this today, will you debate Donald Trump? He had a very curt answer.
It depends on his behavior.
Okay. No. Yeah. He's not going to debate Donald Trump. We're not going to have any debate, and that's sad. I think, quite frankly, we could use a debate. Now, if you haven't heard today, Michael Whatley and Lara Trump have become the new chair and co-chair of the Republican National Committee. Ronna McDaniel has resigned amid discord with Trump during the primary process. Whatley vowed that the organization will be focused like a laser beam on getting out the vote and protecting the ballot. Boy, I'm telling you, that's exactly what we need. That's exactly what we need to be focused on. Getting out the vote and protecting the ballot. You need to be all about that. In the less than 8 months, we're going to determine the fate not only of the United States, but the entire world. And this body, the RNC, is going to be the vanguard of a movement that will work tirelessly every single day to elect our nominee, Donald J. Trump, as the 47th president of the United States. Flip the Senate, expand our majority in the House of Representatives. He served as a chair of the North Carolina GOP and the RNC General Counsel. He's a Trump loyalist who has echoed the former president's rhetoric about election integrity in the wake of the 2020 election. Trump has falsely claimed was fraudulent. Well, I don't know if it's falsely claimed, but he's claimed it was fraudulent and stolen. So there you have that. This from thehill.com. Michael Whatley and Lara Trump, chair and co-chair of the RNC, effective today. 20 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Man, with all of this rain, with all of this water, you may find that you have a problem at your house with waterproofing. You have maybe standing water in the crawl space or wet basement walls. Do you notice a musty odor coming up through the floor, or maybe you see places with wood rot? Cracks in basement floors, hardwood floors cupping. Your house may be trying to tell you something, and it is that you need help. And this is one of the things that the folks at USS do. United Structural Systems, more than 25,000 satisfied residential customers. They'll come out, they'll assess your situation, whether it's waterproofing or foundation issues, and they'll tell you what they can do and how they can fix the situation and make it a lot better. And at the end of the day, if you go forward, you're not going to pay a penny until the job is done and you are completely satisfied with the things that are going on there and that you're completely satisfied with the job. So listen, you need to reach out to USS and get them to come out to your house if you're having waterproof issues. Not something, by the way, you need to wait on. You need to get on that right away because that can really get out of control in a big, big, big hurry. So here's the number. It's, I'm trying to find the right page. I'm having real trouble with my script today. Here we are at 615-488-7855. USS serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, online at USSTN. Here's the number again, 615-488-7855.
Hey everybody, Dan Mandis here. Got my first shipment of emergency food from My Patriot Supply. Gonna make these pancakes. Now you prepare and cook them just like regular pancakes. But thanks to the special packaging, they last for 25 years. So when things go wrong, you are eating right with My Patriot Supply. And yes, they taste great. Now every week, I'm going to introduce you to different food. My Patriot Supply is America's most trusted supplier of emergency food. Head on over to my website, preparewithmandis.com, right now and see all the different foods that they have and all the great specials as well. That's preparewithmandis.com. Be prepared for anything with My Patriot Supply and preparewithmandis.com.
An offshore pier for humanitarian aid there in Gaza being suggested by the president, President Biden, that is. And some money news coming up, 4:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
There's Mac Maury. Not only does he do the news, he is the star of the breakaway runaway hit, Mac Maury's Wide, Wide, Wild World of Sports. And that'll be at 5:20. We do that every day that Mac is here when he's not off sloughing off. We look forward to that. This is also, of course, the day that we do Phone Your Farm Friday, which will be at 4:35. So get your thoughts together for that. And if you want to get on a little early when we get into the news, that'd be fine. 615-737-9986. It is a momentous night here in bucolic Watertown. There are big doings downtown. The hardware store is unveiling its new sign. Well, they've had a change in ownership, and they've got a new sign, and they're unveiling it. And this is, of course, down at the hardware store, which also serves as a Masonic temple. It's hardware store and Masonic temple all in one building.
They just have the meetings after business hours, right?
I guess. I mean, the Masonic temple is upstairs.
Oh, okay.
I've never seen anybody go up there, but that's where they go.
That's because you weren't invited.
I'm not a Mason. That's right, and it's a secret organization. But the hardware store is downstairs, and I'm gonna rush down to see the new sign.
They got the high school band coming out.
I don't know, but apparently they're going to be past hors d'oeuvres at the hardware store. So I'm going. You know me, I'll show up for hors d'oeuvres anywhere. No, they're good people. We like the people down at the hardware store. We count them as friends. And then let's see what else. Watertown has become known as the town where everyone basks under the watchful eye of the blue light cameras.
That's right.
We talked to you. We've told you several times that we got these cameras that just popped up one day. And they had an obnoxious blinking blue light, and people complained about the blinking. So now it's just a solid blue light.
That's better.
It doesn't blink anymore. I guess that's better. I don't know. But anyway, the thing is that here in Watertown, unless you go to a city council meeting, and I can't ever go because they're having city council meetings when I'm on the air,
right.
and so I can't ever make it. So I count on the Watertown Express, the somewhat regular newspaper that covers the events of Watertown. They print the minutes, but it's always like a month late.
It's called the Express.
Yeah, it's called the Express, but the minutes are always a month late.
Right.
And so I picked up my copy of I was going down to get a flat tire fixed, and I picked up my copy while I was waiting on the tire to get fixed, and I picked up my copy of the Watertown Express, and I find out that at the January 31st meeting, that's how far behind they are.
Okay.
They discussed the blue lights, and it was the first time that I'd ever seen anything that had officially been said about the blue lights written up about it. And come to find out, these blue lights are not just surveillance cameras; they are license plate readers. I know. That was a big shock to me and a lot of other people are just now, since we weren't all at the meeting, we're just now finding this out like a month later, that apparently those blue light cameras are license plate readers. And so, again, I'm on record and I believe I don't have a problem with license plate readers per se, but I do have a problem that these things just showed up one day and that nobody knew they were coming, and that even members of the council were caught by surprise by this, I am told. Wow. I'm told reliably that the council members had no idea. Now, this means that the police department here in Watertown, and I don't want to start a fight with the police department, but the police department in Watertown basically applied for a grant and put them up before they told the council. Which
that doesn't seem
that's
right.
not the way a police department's supposed to operate. The police department operates under the supervision of the civilian leadership. But not in Watertown. Apparently, they just go around and do whatever they want to do. If you don't like it, lump it. So, again, a big surprise. Many people now learning that those are license plate readers. And they say, well, they've had some real success with them. They've been able to track down some crime using the license plate readers. But I have questions. And I may have to take a day off to go to the council meeting to get answers. I'll tell you that for sure. It's now 30 minutes past the hour, 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
.431, I'm Mac Maury with your top story. 64 degrees and a wet, possibly very cold weekend ahead. Weather forecast traffic report just ahead in 5 minutes. The Pentagon today clarified the president's announcement that he'll build a floating dock off Gaza to deliver more aid to Palestinian civilians. Andy Field.
The Pentagon describing a complex three-step process trying to get aid to Gaza, starting with the U.S. building an offshore floating pier.
To transfer cargo to smaller vessels, to transport and offload cargo to a temporary causeway for the delivery of humanitarian aid to Gaza.
General Pat Ryder would not say how much that will cost U.S. taxpayers, but insists that American service members will never actually touch land in Gaza.
Now over to some money news. Michelle Francis walks us through Wall Street.
It was an up and down day of trading on Wall Street. Stocks climbed on the employment report, which found 275,000 jobs were added in February, beating expectations. Investors are hoping that means interest rate cuts are on the way. But the market swung the other way after the influential NVIDIA stock took a 4% tumble. NVIDIA is the third largest U.S. stock. The Nasdaq lost 188 points. The Dow dipped 68. The S&P dropped 34. The maker of a drug for Lou Gehrig's disease says it failed to help patients, raising the likelihood that the drug will be pulled from the U.S. The FDA has approved a label change for the popular weight loss drug Wegovy. It can now be used to reduce the risk of stroke, heart attacks, and other heart problems in patients who are overweight or obese. Microsoft says a Russian state-backed group hacked into its corporate email accounts in January, gaining access to its core software systems.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
It's 38 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Yep, that's right. It's time for the thing we do every Friday. My favorite part of the week, a little thing we like to call Phone Your Farb Friday. Here's the number, 615-737-9986. I mean, listen, this is a chance for you to get up and share what's on your mind. Maybe you have a bee in your bonnet. Maybe you have a burr in your saddle. Maybe you have a bug in a place where I hope you really never, ever have a bug. Just get up on our 100,000-watt soapbox and say your piece within reason, because it is a family show. 615-737-9986. Got a couple of lines still open, so get on there and again, phone your farb. I'm your farb. I want you to phone. All right? We're going to start with Al in Sladen. Al, good afternoon. You're on with Brian on The Drive.
Thanks, Brian. Don't you think it's a crazy idea to put our troops right down here building a pier by Hamas where they could lob rockets at us?
Well, I will say that in my initial understanding was they were going to build what they called a port. And it really wasn't explained until about 3 o'clock this afternoon after I came on the air that this is going to be a floating port offshore. And they'll bring in, supply ships, and then they would transfer to smaller boats. So they would never actually step foot in Gaza, which I'm glad to hear. But still, you're right. It's certainly within a lobbing distance of mortars and rockets. And I don't know. I just don't have a bad feeling about this whole thing. It's in the name of humanitarian. We're trying to do it's for humanitarian reasons. But I don't know. I think there's so much anger toward the United States in Gaza that I think our troops may be or could be easily put in danger. Thank you for the call, though. I'm concerned about it. How about Brian in Lawrenceburg? Brian, you're on with Brian on The Drive. What's on your mind today?
Yeah, since even though Nikki Haley has dropped out and Donald Trump is pretty much the nominee, are they still going to have those elections right up to the big one in November?
You mean will they continue to have primaries?
Yes.
Oh, yes, of course. They have to get 1,215 delegates to actually clinch the nomination. I think he's at 900 and change. I forget, nearly 1,000. So he's still got a little ways to go before he clinches. And then every state gets to have their primary, even if it's fait accompli. Look, I think you can safely look at Donald Trump and call him the presumptive nominee at this point, because there are no other candidates of consequence that are standing. Since Nikki Haley has gotten out. So, yeah, they'll have their primaries, but he still has to get to 1,215 before he becomes officially the presumptive nominee. Thank you for the call.
Do you see him getting it next week?
Maybe. Yeah, it's close. I mean, we got a couple of minor primaries coming along, and he'll sweep those because there's nobody else running. And so, I think it's coming very soon. Thank you for the call, Brian. Appreciate it. Max in Springfield, you're on with Brian on The Drive. What's on your mind today, Max?
Brian, just a kind of a pet peeve. I hear the political ads from Andy Ogles on WTN that air usually drive time about every day and otherwise. And at the end of his ad that says all the wonderful things that he's doing, it says, and I'm quoting, paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives, which is just code for paid for by our tax dollars. And I've always had a good impression of Mr. Ogles, from his history. I don't really know him personally, but he's talking about cutting spending and being more efficient in government, and yet he's running ads that are paid for from tax dollars, and that just is a pet peeve of mine.
I had not noticed that. Let me listen to it carefully, and if I can figure it out, I'll have something to say about it. But I got to be honest with you. As much as I want you to listen to commercials, when y'all are listening to commercials, I'm prepping the next segment for radio. I'm thinking about the content of the next segment. So I sometimes sort of have to check out and not listen to the commercials because I'm getting ready for what I'm going to say next. But I'll take a close listen to that. By the way, got a couple of lines open, 615-737-9986. Remember, you're being judged against the 5 o'clock hour So you need to make a good showing here if you're listening in the 4 o'clock hour. How about Jessica in Tullahoma? Jessica, you're on with Brian on the drive. What's on your mind today, Jessica?
Hello, Brian.
Hey.
I just had a comment to make. Someone on there earlier had made a comment about President Biden basically yelling through his entire speech. And I'm wondering whether it's someone with an ear thing telling him what to say, or if he was just trying to talk loud enough so that he could hear himself over the voices in his head.
Listen, I don't think he had an earpiece, but some people have wondered if somehow in past debates, presidential debates, whether somebody had an earpiece in their ear. But I don't think so. I mean, and it's all on teleprompter, so he doesn't need any guidance about what to do. He just reads the teleprompter. And it's interesting, the one time he got off the teleprompter, it sort of went south for him. He made, like in one sentence, he committed 2 or 3 gaffes. So, if he gets off the teleprompter, he's in dangerous territory, and they know it. So they had just sort of grilled him, stick with the script, don't ad lib, stick with the script, don't ad lib. And when he ad libbed, he made mistakes, calling Lincoln Riley for one thing. So look, I think he thinks that if he shouts, it shows how intense he is and how energetic he is. And to me, he just comes across as a cranky, old, squinting man. And I don't think it worked well for him. Look, again, somebody pointed out, in a great speech, you start down here and you layer and you get a little more and you build and you get up to, your penultimate point, which is the point near the top. And then bam, when you get to the top, you are really, being able to emphasize the most important part of your point. And there needs to be, throughout the speech, there needs to be ups and downs, and there needs to be a building to a point, and then you move on and you get to building another point. But, with him, it was all one level, screaming. It was not a great speech in that regard. Bill in Smyrna. Bill, you're on with Brian on the drive.
Hey, Brian, how you doing?
I'm fine.
Hey, I had heard something really interesting today. How about Mitt Romney for your no-label candidate? He would love to burn Trump, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting idea. I mean, the no-labels folks basically today got together and said, we are going to put candidates in, and we're talking to interesting people. They didn't say who they were. Interestingly enough, they said if Nikki Haley had been interested, we'd have been all over that. But they say that she's not interested, and they seem to suggest they're not talking to her. Kirsten Sinema says she's out. Joe Manchin says he's out. Larry Hogan is running for Senate. So, I don't know who these moderates are, but that's an interesting thought. I thought, Mitt Romney, I sort of thought he was ready to get out of politics. I mean, I think I read that he's not running for re-election. I believe that's correct. And so this is his last term, and he's been in politics a long time. So I think maybe he'll get on out this time. But who knows? I mean, it'd be interesting to see who the no labels people come up with. If it's Romney, it's a big yawn. I don't think that's going to be anything to worry about. Danny in Murfreesboro. Danny, you're on with Brian on the drive. What's up?
Yeah. Hey, I just have this idea about Nikki Haley running with Mr. Trump. And, it would pull a lot of votes in for him because, she drew quite a few votes, even though she didn't, overdo him. But I think that would be a good idea for the Republican Party because we need to take this country back over. And
so you think it would unify the Republican Party? Actually, I think it would. A lot of people would not like that at all. Given the fact how badly she spoke about Trump. I don't know if that I mean, maybe it's politics. You never know. You say things and, people seem to not remember them. But it'd be pretty hard, I think, for Trump to forgive her for that, I would think, number one. And number two, that she could become what is seen as a loyal, soldier in the Trump cause because she has said so many hateful things about him. in the last days of the campaign. I think I think her actions in this campaign have ended her political career. I do. I don't think that even if you come back in 4 years and she runs in 4 years, I don't think people are going to welcome her back. I think that she left a very bad taste in a lot of people's mouth, and me among them for sure. All right, how about Dana in Shelbyville? Dana, you're on with Brian on the drive. What's up?
Hey, Brian, there's a lot that irritates me with the left, but last night the one thing that just absolutely burned me up is the sudden urge to fix the border now that you're 3.5 years in of bringing illegals over. I mean, that absolutely irritates me to death when he tore down everything that Trump did. And then now all of a sudden he wants to blame the Republicans for not passing what he wants passed to fix the border. They built a narrative, and now they're using it to try to make us look bad, and it just absolutely is sickening to me. It makes me mad too, and the facts though. I think most Americans. I mean, he's throwing meat to the Democrats. He's just throwing red meat to the Democrats and telling them what they want to hear. That it's not his fault. He's given them an excuse, but you know what? It is his fault. When you look at the executive orders he overturned. Almost the first few days in office, some people say as many as 94 executive orders with regard to the border. And when he did that, he then made it possible for this chaos to exist. And it's still within his power. Literally snap a finger, sign a piece of paper, make a phone call. And he can shut it down. But he doesn't seem to be interested in doing that. I got time for one more. Let's go to Nathan in Dixon real quick. Nathan, you're on with Brian. What's up?
Hey, Brian. Just rolling right along here with the border stuff. In the Constitution, it says that that's what Texas is using to be able to protect their own lands, because when the federal government steps back and says, we're not going to protect America, it's up to the people and it's up to the state to do that. But if you keep reading in that clause, it says if you aid and abet the enemy during that invasion, that's treason, Brian. That's treason.
Yep.
And he's flying people over to make the border look like it's less people coming over when he goes down there. 380,000 people he's aiding and abetting to get over for the invasion. Brian, that's treason. Is it up to the American people to hold him accountable because nobody else will?
Yeah, I think our best chance of holding him accountable is going to be coming up on November 5th. That's what I think, and that's why I'm hoping that this is not lost on people, this whole mess that's going on. Listen, a great round there. I give the 4 o'clock hour very high marks. It will be interesting to see whether the 5 o'clock hour can better that. Right now, I'd give these guys about a B plus A minus.
Nice.
I mean, I grade on a very tough scale, and I don't grade on a curve. So we'll see. 51 minutes now past the hour, 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. There's a lot of diagnoses out there and a pill for everything, but not all diagnoses are accurate, and not every pill is good for you. Now, when you get a diagnosis for European auto repair, you should get a second opinion before you make a major decision. And Eurofix is the home for second opinions. Before you spend hundreds or even thousands of dollars on European vehicle repair from some diagnosis you got somewhere, go to Eurofix. Might save your vehicle's life, could save you a lot of money. At Eurofix, you'll get a free 15-minute no-wrench inspection with every estimate at every visit. Not a high-pressure sales job. They're not going to do that to you at all. And at Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. And at Eurofix, you never pay dealer prices. Locations: Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now Mount Juliet. Call 844-EUROFIX or visit myEurofix.com and tell them your friend and radio buddy Brian Wilson sent you.
Hey everybody, Dan Mandis here. Got my first shipment of emergency food from My Patriot Supply. Gonna make these pancakes. Now you prepare and cook them just like regular pancakes. But thanks to this special packaging, they last for 25 years. So when things go wrong, you are eating right with My Patriot Supply. And yes, they taste great. Now, every week, I'm going to introduce you to different food. My Patriot Supply is America's most trusted supplier of emergency food. Head on over to my website, preparewithmandis.com, right now and see all the different foods that they have and all the great specials as well. That's preparewithmandis.com. Be prepared for anything with My Patriot Supply and preparewithmandis.com.
5 o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top story. 64 degrees, been a cloudy, wet day in Nashville. Expecting that to sustain into tomorrow's forecast. Likely chance for showers Saturday, Sunday. Little clearer, but also the chance for temperatures below freezing both evenings this weekend. Traffic, complete weather forecast coming up in 5 minutes. The Pentagon today clarified the president's announcement that he'll build a floating dock off Gaza to deliver more aid to Palestinian civilians. Andy Field has the latest from Washington.
It sounds impossible, but the Defense Department insists they can build an offshore Gaza pier and causeway to deliver aid without Americans actually landing on shore.
There will be no U.S. forces on the ground in Gaza.
General Pat Ryder saying the U.S. and other nations will move the aid from the offshore pier to another U.S.-built and anchored to the sea causeway, and it will somehow eventually get to Palestinian civilians.
Right now in Tennessee, Fort Campbell Sergeant and Army Intelligence Agent Corbin Schultz pleaded not guilty today to federal charges that he sold sensitive military secrets to China. The 6 federal indictments allege that Schultz began sharing documents, maps, notes, pictures, and missile tactics to China beginning in June of 2022 in exchange for cash, $42,000 to be exact. They claim that money came in 14 installments. The indictment mentions exchanges where Schultz tells the Chinese conspirator he wishes to be Jason Bourne. Schultz will likely have a detention hearing sometime next week to determine whether he will remain in custody until his trial. Hundreds of criminal cases over nearly 30 years are being reviewed in Colorado after an investigation found a DNA analyst had manipulated results. Here's Alex Stone.
Yvonne Woods, known as Missy, worked many of Colorado's biggest cases during her 29 years as a forensic scientist handling DNA. Now the Colorado Bureau of Investigation has found she altered and deleted DNA tests intentionally over many years, cutting corners and posting incomplete test results. 652 cases have been determined to have been impacted by her manipulation from 2003 to 2023. Affected samples will have to be retested.
And some entertainment news. New in theaters this weekend, 2 very different kinds of bears. Jason Nathanson.
What do I know about being a spiritual leader?
Jack Black and friends might know something about being a box office leader. Kung Fu Panda 4 makes its debut this weekend and could top the box office if it hits the high end of expectations, around $50 million. But if it goes low, it'll have some competition from last week's champ, Dune Part 2. And from panda bears to terrifying teddy bears.
We'll never leave you.
The horror film Imaginary from Blumhouse should open in the $10 to $14 million range, about what it costs to make. The faith-based film Cabrini should open in the same range.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
It is 7 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy. How you doing out there at Radio World? You out there? You getting home safely? We'll get you home. That's what we do during the drive. You drive home. We give you information. We pass the time together, and before you know, you're home and you're informed about what's going on. You give us, 30 minutes or so that it takes to get home. We'll give you a good dose of information that you'll find useful. That's the goal. All right. So, as you know, last night was the State of the Union, oh boy, what a speech! Where to start? I think I'll start with this. Number one, it irritates me that the leader of the free world, the president of the United States, a man who has a police escort and a motorcade waiting for him anytime he wants to go somewhere, showed up at the event about 25 minutes late. I mean, look, the way this is all timed out is he's supposed to be there at the appointed time, and that he's it takes a little while. They have to send somebody out to greet him, and they got to bring him all in. There's a whole rigmarole and a protocol that is followed. But it's at the top of the hour, he should already be either on his way or in the building. He didn't enter the chamber until some 25 minutes late. And now here's the thing. To me, it seems that I have a thing about this, but I believe I'm right. I believe I'm right. I think when people are tardy or they they are late for an event, it's insulting. It's perhaps one of the rudest things you can do as an individual, because what you're saying basically is to another person, my time is more important than your time. We're all sitting around, the entire Congress and the cabinet and the Supreme Court and the Joint Chiefs and everybody there and all the people in the gallery sitting there tapping their toe. Where is the president? Where is the president? Everybody's in their place with their bright, shiny face except the president, who's running late. And there's no excuse for it. If you can't get down 16 blocks from the White House to the Capitol, by the way, the streets are completely cleared for you, so nobody can cross Pennsylvania Avenue until you come through. And, so there's nothing that's going to stop you. You don't stop for red lights. You don't stop for anybody. You have the lane is yours. And all you got to do is get on the car on time and get to the Capitol. The trip probably takes about a minute and a half, really 2 minutes, when you have a straight shot and the road is yours and you have a police escort. I don't understand being late. It just says, not only was it all the people in the room who were being held and being, treated rudely, it's the American people are all sitting around waiting for the thing to start. And then, you would think, well, I'm running late. I better just, come in, have the introduction and move quickly to the podium. But no, he lollygags around for another 10 minutes before he gets to the stage. It's like, really? Come on. Have a little consideration for somebody besides yourself, jerk. I'm sorry. I have no patience for people who don't take into account that other people's time is valuable. And my time is valuable, right? And your time is valuable. And we didn't need to sit around for 30 minutes waiting for the guy to show up. So there's that. The folks at the Federalist have a great article, Federalist.com. Biden lied 30 times during the State of the Union. In the first hour, I went through about 10 of the lies, but I didn't have enough time to do them all. So I'm going to do some more because, they just lie after lie after lie, just about everything that he said. It turns out to be something that's made up completely. So let me start with this one. Number 20, I'll do the last 10, okay? How much billionaires pay in taxes? Biden falsely claimed that the average federal tax rate for billionaires is 8.2%. That's not true. PolitiFact, which, by the way, is the left's favorite fact-checking site, has rated the president's assertion as false, as the richest Americans pay an effective tax rate of more than 20% on the income the government counts under the current tax code. Ukraine border bill. Remember that border bill that was negotiated behind closed doors by Senate leadership? Well, he said that it contained the toughest set of border security reforms ever seen, and would bring order to the border. That statement could not be further from the truth, they write, as the bill would only exasperated the ongoing southern border invasion. Election law falsehoods. The president insinuated that Republicans backed election integrity measures supported by most Americans that take us back in time and constitute voter suppression and election subversion. There's never been any evidence that voter election integrity measures like, voter ID do any of those things. He said that he says conservatives are banning books. We're not banning books. And then there was the moment where he got Laken Riley's name wrong. Here's the only clip I'm going to play from this nonsense from last night. He started to talk about this situation, and he started getting jeered by Republicans in the room who insisted that he say her name. Well, he tried, but he got it wrong.
Lincoln Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal. That's right. But how many of thousands of people being killed by illegals?
Well, I don't understand that at all. Number one, he gets the name wrong. He called her not Laken, but
Lincoln Riley.
Well, that's not right. And then he says, okay, well, hold on a minute. This is a person who was killed not by, as they like to say at the White House, a newcomer. He actually used the term illegal.
An innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal.
And that was interesting enough. And then this is the only time he ever ad-libbed in the whole night. And when he came off script, he made 3 what some people would consider tactical errors. Number 1, he got the name wrong. Number 2, he used the term illegal immigrant, which that's what I would call it. But, Democrats are not supposed to use such language, and he got chewed out for that. And then the last thing, he throws out a question. Well, how many people have died? How many of the thousands of people have died at the hands of illegal immigrants? Well, that's sort of our point, Mr. President, a lot. So
that's right. But how many of thousands of people being killed by illegals?
What point was he trying to make? Nobody knows. He was asked about using the term illegal today.
Well, technically not supposed to be here.
Yes, that's right, Mr. President. Ding, ding, ding. Yes, that's right. Bing. It's correct, Mr. President. He's not supposed to be here, but he's here because you let him in. Okay. What else? He misspoke on Trump. He on an Iowa school shooting. I won't get it. It's a long explanation, but he got that wrong. There's some other things. The Second Amendment. Here we go. The president falsely claimed that a ban on so-called assault weapons does not constitute a violation of the Second Amendment. I think you and I would think about that otherwise. He falsely asserted that he taught the Second Amendment for 12 years. I don't know where he taught that. Gaza deaths. Biden said most of the people killed in Gaza are not Hamas, including thousands who are innocent women and children. Given that these figures are provided by Hamas, it's unknown whether they are accurate. America's prospects challenging China. He claimed the U.S. is in a stronger position to win the competition for the 21st century against China or anyone else for that matter, given the ongoing border invasion, economic woes, and foreign policy failures under Biden's presidency. That statement is not true. And the last one is, he said, ludicrously, he contended that America has never fully lived up to the idea that we are all created equal. And then as he's leaving, he lollygags some more. You know why they do that, by the way, don't you? They lollygag. I mean, he's taking his sweet, you-know-what time to get out of the room because they cannot start the clock to begin the rebuttal until the president clears the door. So when they clear the door, the clock starts, and a certain number of minutes after that, then they hit the rebuttal. That's the way it's all done. He knows this. So by lollygagging around, he is delaying the Republican rebuttal which, that's to his advantage to delay, because a lot of people get tired and go to bed. And so he's delaying it by taking his sweet time getting out of there. But while he's getting on the way out, he has a meeting, and it's hard to hear this. I'll see if you can hear it. If not, I'll tell you what he said.
I told him, Bibi, I'm going to get this. Bibi and I should come to
Did you hear that? He said he's going to have a come to meet Jesus meeting with Bibi Netanyahu. He's going to have a meeting about Jesus with a Jew. I don't understand sorry, that's rude, I suppose, for me to say that. But, first of all, that's something that he did not know was being picked up by the microphones. And then, so an aide steps up and goes, Mr. President, hot mics. Well, it's too late because now we've heard it. We heard a lot of things. And he was asked about that today as he was getting on Air Force One.
I didn't say that in the speech.
Well, no, you didn't say it in the speech.
What about after the speech? You guys eavesdropping on things.
No, we weren't eavesdropping. We were there with a camera that was right in front of you that has a microphone. Not eavesdropping. You're in a public place. Anything you say in public, we're not eavesdropping. The camera is there to record and you don't see the camera with the big honking light on it and the microphone that's sticking out. Don't you know about shotgun microphones, Mr. President? Long time Washington, you know what a shotgun microphone is. Shotgun microphone picks up sound from a distance. And so this guy's just a piece of work. Other things, as you know, a Gold Star dad was arrested after heckling Biden during the State of the Union. He was taken into custody to be charged with a misdemeanor as a result of that. He announced that he's going to deploy U.S. military to Gaza to help the Palestinians. Earlier, I incorrectly reported that they're going to go ashore, but they're not. He says they're going to remain offshore and build a floating pier, not actually a port, which is what he said last night, and that boots will not be on the ground. But they'll certainly be within mortar distance, I would imagine. I don't know. I don't feel real good about all of that. Just a few of the things that were going on last night as a result of the State of the Union. It was a horrible speech. A shouting, squinty-eyed old man who spoke at one level for the entire thing because he mistakenly believes that shouting denotes energy. Oh, we're going to have a Rip Snorton speech where I'm going to yell at you guys. You know what? It got tiresome. And I think a lot of people probably checked out. I know that I watched it on a replay, and I tried my hardest, but after a few minutes, I said, I've had enough of this. I'm going to bed. I don't think it was a particularly effective speech. And somebody pointed out, it's all about looking backwards instead of looking forward. The whole speech was backward looking. Look at all the great things I've done, except that he had to lie about them to make it sound good. And as we have told you, we've pointed out many of those lies. By the way, again, if you want to read all of the 30 times that he lied during the State of the Union, it's at Federalist.com. That's Federalist.com. It is 20 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk. Grace Point Healthcare really is the standard for the affordable, comprehensive, convenient medicine. I mean, as a direct pay provider, your health care is delivered without the red tape of insurers' guidelines. Smart Care plans make it even more affordable. Starting at $69 a month, you get free office visits and basic labs for the entire year. And Grace Point identifies and treats the root cause of conditions, not just the symptoms, through a comprehensive functional approach, and by usually seeing the same or next day, you're treated at your convenience. Grace Point Healthcare is affordable, comprehensive, and convenient medicine delivered the old-fashioned way. And as you know, they're on Main Street in Franklin. Here's the number if you want to set up an appointment, 599-6868. That's 599-6868 to set up an appointment.
Humanitarian meals in Gaza from the United States, some of them may be fatal. Former President Trump has secured his bond in his defamation case and a controversial ad concerning weight loss drugs. Those stories coming up 30 minutes after the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
And before we move on to McMurray's Wide World of Sports, I just want to mention that many of you have called in and pointed out on the members' nutrition super text line that I misheard that soundbite by Biden. He didn't say how many were killed by illegals. He pointed out that many people are killed by legals.
But how many of thousands of people being killed by illegals?
So I apologize for misunderstanding that, but thank you so much for pointing out. Now,
spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat.
It's time for McMurray's Wild World of Sports. And now here, without further ado, the man, the myth, the legend, the man that we come to count on to give us the very most interesting breakdowns on sporting events around the world, across the nation, up your street, and down your alley. It's McMurray, ladies and gentlemen.
And we made it. It's a Friday.
Yeah.
Woo! Hello. How are you guys?
Feels like a Thursday to me.
Okay, bro.
I wonder why.
All right, Max, so what do you got for us today?
Okay, first off, we talked. I didn't announce it yesterday because I wanted you to come back, Brian, because we talked about Tennessee basketballs on Wednesday having the chance to beat South Carolina, keep this win streak going, and clinch the SEC. They did so on Wednesday. They beat number 17 ranked South Carolina. They beat them at the Gamecocks house, and they won 66-59. They are SEC regular season champions. They will finish off the regular season tomorrow against their rival in Knoxville, number 15 ranked, the Kentucky Wildcats, traveling to Thompson-Boling Arena to take on the Vols.
What's their history there?
Kentucky and Tennessee, as far as basketball is concerned, this year, 103-92 was their last game. February 3rd, Tennessee got the better of Kentucky at Kentucky, but the Wildcats have maybe the second best player in the SEC there for Kentucky. So he's going to be battling with Dalton Knecht. So it's going to be an exciting game. Kentucky, again, 15th ranked in the country. Not a usual Wildcats team. You expect those blue bloods, Duke, North Carolina, Kentucky, Kansas, to always be in that top 5, top 6 conversation. They really haven't been. They've been middling in the top 25, which I would love that for a down year to have that. A down year, you're 15th, 16th in the country. So they'll be fun. They're young. They're very athletic. Tennessee, this isn't like the pros to where, we clinched our conference. Let's rest our guys. No, they're all going to be playing. They all need the reps. They all need to gain this chemistry. The SEC tournament starts this upcoming Wednesday at Bridgestone Arena. So it's going to be very, very exciting. So I'm excited. I think I'm going to go to some games.
That'd be a good game to watch, yeah.
How much does the conference tournaments, how much does that impact the following the NCAA tournaments?
Well, if you win a conference tournament, you're in March Madness. So for lesser conferences, like a Mid-America conference or something like that, like Belmont's conference, like if Belmont were to win their conference tournament, they get their bid. So those lesser conferences, those smaller conferences, those tournaments mean so much because you automatically get a bid. Now, if you're Tennessee, this means a lot too, because if you were to just blow this, lose it in the first round, you lose your 1 seed. There's a good chance you don't get that 1 seed. If Tennessee wins this tournament, they're a lock to get a 1 seed. If they get into the championship, they're going to be really close to getting a 1 seed. So yeah, there's still a lot at stake. Even though Tennessee won the SEC regular season, it's not necessarily going to mean much when you're talking about the echelon that they're playing at. So yeah, very exciting. And then moving on really quickly, Nashville Predators. Today's the NHL trade deadline, and they were buyers today. It's kind of funny enough. I went to a game. Let's see, when was this? This was February 15th. 9-2 was the score. The Preds lost to the Dallas Stars. I went with my brother and our friend. It was absolute just clinic. Still fun. You got to love the Preds. But after that, the Preds rattle off an 8-game win streak. So I guess I was the spark that ignited them.
Yeah, all you.
Yeah, so they've won their last 8 games until Tuesday. They lost to the Montreal Canadiens in overtime, 4-3. They beat the Sabres yesterday. But that, winning 9 out of the last 10 games really vaulted them to change their strategy at the trade deadline. GM Barry Trotz said, he was kind of holding his cards close to his vest. He became a buyer, or at least on the hold side. To quote him, he said, I'm going to be buying, or at least I'm going to be holding these guys, because there was word that maybe Saros, the Preds' best player, the goalie, would be on the trade block. And he said, nope, he pulled that back and closed that completely and turned off the phone for that. But they signed a forward to a 1-year deal. They acquired a guy named Wade Allison. I'm not going to have the analysis on a lot of these players. NHL is a little bit out of my comfort zone. But all I know is the Predators are buyers, and they're sitting in the middle of the Central Division right now with 75 points. Dallas Stars leading that with 85 points. But they're right there, smack dab in the middle, 36-25 on the season. So the Predators going to have a chance to make the playoffs and actually be a fun, young, up-and-coming team. We didn't really necessarily think that 3 weeks ago.
Playoffs. You know how I love the playoffs, because then we get to play the catfish.
Right. Exactly. Get it ready.
We'll have to break that out again. 31 minutes now past the hour. Time to go to news. Here's Mac Morey with that as well.
5:31, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Right now, 63 degrees, rainy in Nashville, expecting more rain tomorrow. Possibilities for temperatures below freezing in the evening Saturday and Sunday. Forecast and a traffic report in 5 minutes. The U.S. dropping thousands of humanitarian meals in Gaza, but the Hamas-run health ministry is claiming that aid boxes falling to the ground have crushed as many as 5 children. Dave Packer.
The Pentagon is denying claims that U.S. humanitarian aid drops in Gaza have resulted in civilian casualties on the ground. Major General Pat Ryder.
Press reports that U.S. airdrops resulted in civilian casualties on the ground are false, as we've confirmed that all of our aid bundles landed safely on the ground.
Major Ryder says the initial report of a casualty came 5 minutes before the U.S. airdrop even took place.
Right now in New York, former President Donald Trump has secured a $91 million, $630,000 bond for the judgment in his defamation case brought by the writer E. Jean Carroll. That covers the $83 million judgment in the case plus interest. Either paying the judgment or posting a bond for the judgment's full amount was required for him to move ahead with an appeal. And drug maker Eli Lilly releasing a TV ad in time for the Academy Awards that appears to criticize people who use diabetes and weight loss drugs for cosmetic reasons.
The new ad by drug maker Eli Lilly shows people who are overweight against a faded backdrop of sequins and red carpet, seemingly targeting people, even celebrities, who may use diabetes and weight loss drugs like Mounjaro and Zepbound for cosmetic reasons. James Servios is with the Obesity Action Coalition.
These are not medications that are out there for vanity use. These are really meant for people that are dealing with this disease.
Experts say the widespread cosmetic use has also led to a dwindling supply of the drugs.
And that is the latest news. Weather, traffic next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
We are just ahead of round 2 of Phone Your Farm Friday, 615-737-9986. Get on the line now. Get ready. In the meantime, let me tell you about Nashville Gold and Coin. The chairman of the Federal Reserve has said that we're on an unsustainable fiscal path, that we aren't going to pay off the $34 trillion debt anytime soon. And you know what they're going to do. They're just going to print money to pay interest on the debt and thereby debase the U.S. dollar. Listen, gold and silver can be a safe haven in uncertain economic times. And my friends at Nashville Gold and Coin are standing by to answer all your questions about the precious metals market. I mean, maybe you've thought about adding gold or other precious metals to your portfolio, but feel you don't have the knowledge you need to make a smart decision. Well, I know that's the way that I felt, but I got the professional guidance I needed at Nashville Gold and Coin. The way this works is you make an appointment, then you sit down one-on-one with my friends at Nashville Gold and Coin. They'll answer all your questions, help you make the precious metals investment that is right for you. It's friendly, and you'll learn a lot, and you'll never be subjected to high-pressure sales pitches. Listen, set up that one-on-one appointment. Just go to NashvilleGoldandCoin.com. That's NashvilleGoldandCoin.com.
Hey everybody, Dan Mandis here. Got my first shipment of emergency food from My Patriot Supply. Gonna make these pancakes. Now you prepare and cook them just like regular pancakes. But thanks to the special packaging, they last for 25 years. So when things go wrong, you are eating right with My Patriot Supply. And yes, they taste great. Now every week, I'm going to introduce you to different food. My Patriot Supply is America's most trusted supplier of emergency food. Head on over to my website, preparewithmandis.com, right now and see all the different foods that they have and all the great specials as well. That's preparewithmandis.com. Be prepared for anything with My Patriot Supply and preparewithmandis.com.
.538 Super Talk 99.7. It's that time. Yes, once again, we love this on Friday. Round 2 of a little thing we like to call Phone Your Farb Friday. You know the number, 615-737-9986. Listen, we need to make sure you understand that, we are...
We ain't one at a time in here. We're mass communicating.
That's right, we're mass communicating here. Your chance to climb up on a 100,000-watt soapbox and have your say, well, within boundaries, because it is a family show. Maybe you got a bee in your bonnet. Maybe you got a burr in your saddle. Maybe you have a bug in a place where I hope you never really ever have a bug. 615-737-9986. Now, look, I gave the guys in the 4 o'clock hour fairly high marks. I gave them a B+, A-, right out there, right in the cusp, somewhere in between, maybe low A. So you've got to do better. 615-737-9986. Got a lot of phone lines open. But we can start with Mike in Lebanon. Mike, you're on with Brian on the drive. What's on your mind there? I'm sorry, Mike. I lost something happened there. What happened? Let's go to Mike in South Pittsburgh. I'm sorry, Mike. You're on with Brian on the drive. What's on your mind?
Hey, Brian. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well.
Hey, there is a reason why that Token Joe was late for his Hate of the Union address.
Yeah, what was the reason?
It was because, according to Glenn Beck, his motorcade was met by a Palestinian protest.
Is that right? Well, I hadn't heard that one. I did see him afterwards, but let me tell you something. I'd be surprised by that, actually. Maybe it was something that the security people did not expect. But I got to tell you, listen, I've covered a lot of these things, and I've seen the security around these things, and I would be shocked if they weren't prepared for something like that and didn't have good intelligence on it. But one way or the other, okay. So you go around them. You come in the other side of the Capitol. That's an easy fix. It doesn't require that you be 25 minutes late. Believe me, if that was the problem, and I could see why that might have caught them by surprise. But I got to tell you, it's not. There's more than one way to get into the Capitol. It would have been a 2-block diversion. All right, but thank you for that. Appreciate it. How about Billy and Shelbyville? Billy, you're on with Brian on the drive. What's up, Billy?
Hey, I just wanted to tell you a story that happened on Sunday. I was sitting outside of my apartment in Shelbyville, and I saw some people get pulled over right in my parking lot, and they rolled their windows down, and they were not from here. They didn't have a license, I heard the officer say, but he called his supervisor, and they recommended that they let them go and drive home because they had little children in the back. I thought that was ridiculous.
Well, and so what were they pulled over for? Do you know?
They had a taillight out, is what I heard the officer say.
All right. Well, okay, that's interesting. No, I think that if they didn't have any ID, maybe you follow them home. Show me your ID. Or I don't know, but I don't know that I don't think the right solution there was to let them go. But is Nashville, is it really basically a sanctuary city? I don't know. Thank you for the call, man. Robert in Missouri. Robert, by the way, we got some open phone lines. Get busy, folks. 615-737-9986. Robert, you're up next on the drive. What's on your mind?
Well, I could sum up the State of the Union address in one word.
Okay.
Malarkey.
It really was. I mean, honestly, the amount of untruth that came out of that president's mouth. The thing is, he's, of course, he's a creature of staff. He's only as good as the staff around him, and they write the speech. But I'm telling you, they just tell lie after lie after lie, things that are demonstrably not true. And that's the thing that I get sort of blown away by. How do you get away with telling that many stories? Do you think we're not going to fact check? Do you think that once you stick it out there that we're just going to accept it at face value? No, that's not the way it works. Everybody gets fact checked when they give a speech like that. And you would think that they would just run some of this stuff, past a fact check team. Go check this fact to make sure we're accurate in what we're saying. There were, and I think they were being generous. The folks at the Federalist found 30 lies that came out of their mouth, things that were just simply not true. Calvin in Lebanon. Calvin, you're up with Brian on the drive. Hey, Calvin, what's up?
Hey, Brian, I was just going to ask you, if Trump gets in this mass deportation, how do you think he'll put that together and with what agencies? I mean, we're talking the National Guard, and do you think that they're going to be safe running back to blue cities? Or is this going to be a statewide, you can run, you can't hide?
I don't know, but I do know this, that if you shut off the border and you let it be, and you start to apply pressure, saying if you're in this country illegally and you don't show up, we're coming after you, and you put the resources in it to go after it. And we have a lot of law enforcement resources, and the president of the United States has the ability to direct those law enforcement sources to do, his bidding to a certain degree. I would say that, the crackdown will be pretty good. And you know what? If you start turning off all of the largesse that is given to people who come into this country illegally, they won't want to be here very long. Right now, it's a gravy train, man. It is. They've got it pretty good, and I think Trump will listen. I have a lot of confidence that once he gets into office, that he can bring law enforcement to bear and solve that problem. Law enforcement wants to enforce the law. It's only that the Democrats won't let them. Ken in Mount Pleasant, you're up with Brian on the Drive. What's up, Ken?
Yes, sir. I'm a long-time listener. I love your show. I listen to it every time UT sports are not involved. And the UT, I'm talking about the real UT, University of Tennessee, not Texas. However, I want to make this statement. I hope at 81 that I'm able to lie as good as Joe Biden. I'm 66 now. I just hope so. You know,
you keep working on it. You know, that's a very high bar that you've set for yourself there. Thank you,
Okay.
Ken. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Monica in White House. What's up, Monica? You're up next on the Drive.
Brian, I just thought last night, every time Kamala stood up, she was just standing up in relief that Mr. Biden finished the sentence.
You know what was fun about last night? Was watching the very subtle facial expressions on the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson.
Yeah.
He has a very transparent face. I mean, there was actually a couple of times where he literally rolled his eyes like, are you kidding me? You're going to say that? I mean, you know, you're supposed to be there and you're supposed to be polite. But you know what? His face is very transparent. And I like it. I love the fact that you could tell, well, you know, he felt that the president was telling another whopper, you know, and but it was just subtle. It wasn't over the top, but it was fun to watch. And I enjoyed that immensely. Mark in Shelbyville, you're up next on the Drive. What's up with you, Mark?
Oh, I'm calling in reference to the call from the other fellow from Shelbyville. He mentioned that the folks that were pulled over, you could tell, weren't from here. Well, I'm going to be straight up. Shelbyville has become a sanctuary city. I wish somebody within the state government would go spend a day in Shelbyville. I guarantee you the population in Shelbyville is at least a quarter or more immigrant, and most of them ain't legal.
All right. Well, I hadn't heard that, but I'll take it your word on it. But yeah, listen, I'm telling you, I think you would have to say that in where we are today, it's not surprising that there are immigrants, some of them legal, some of them illegal, who come here and have landed in Middle Tennessee because, you hear, it's true. Every city has become a border town, and I think that's absolutely correct. Thank you, Mark, for the call. Troy, out on the road. Troy, wow.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, what's on your mind there, Troy? Turn down your radio,
back.
first of all, Troy. You got to turn down your radio.
It's not even on.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Dating back all the way back to the middle of December, if I remember right, I left Nashville around 11 o'clock in the evening after work, and coming off 109 to Airport Road that cuts through to Gallatin, they had two sheriff's vehicles blocking where you couldn't pull into the airport, and there was a big police bus. So that night, I truly believe that they landed a bunch of immigrants, at that airport that night. I tried to stop where I could take video, and I was ushered along. So it was just kind of weird how all that panned out that night. And I bring that up because you were talking about it on Super Tuesday.
Yeah, they were flying them into cities all across the nation, and they wouldn't say where. Well, what day was that again? Give me the date.
I wasn't 100% on the date because I meant to call in that next day. It was about the middle of December.
Middle of December.
So like I said, I was coming in from, I watched the concrete pour in downtown that night, and I came in late. And like I said, they had the sheriff vehicles there, and you can see, the airplane came in, and I attempted to pull over, but I was ushered along.
Yeah.
But like I said, they had a police bus there, and like I said, after y'all had talked about it, that's what rang a bell when you were talking about it again Super Tuesday.
I'll mark that down and see if I can get some guidance on that. Listen, thank you for the call. I really do appreciate it. How about Andy in Shelbyville? We got a lot of calls from Shelbyville today.
Hey, Brian.
Hey.
Okay, so this is about Mike Johnson. I felt like he revealed himself a little bit last night when Biden was talking about Ukraine. No, Mike Johnson did not stand up and lead an applause or anything, but he did not make a negative face. He was nodding yes to everything Biden was saying about the Ukraine, which is kind of troublesome for me. So I think he revealed himself last night, and I think also today a big money package got kicked through to the Ukraine today, if I'm not mistaken, or yesterday.
I'll have to check that. I have not seen that. I know that there was a what they called a minibus, another spending package, but I as far as I know, there was no funding for Ukraine there. But I'll double check. As far as Ukraine goes, look, I mean, there are some people on Capitol Hill who don't oppose the idea, and some of them are Republicans. They don't oppose the idea of sending more money to Ukraine to fight the Russians, Russian aggression. You find that the Republicans are split on that. I think Mike Johnson believes that that supporting Ukraine would not necessarily be a bad thing, but you've got to take care of the border first, and he's standing his ground on that, and I'm glad that he is. So we'll continue to watch it and see how that goes. But thank you all for your calls. Now I think what I'm sorry, the 5 o'clock hour, the 4 o'clock hour. Who's the winner this time around?
It's too close to call.
TCTC.
I think so. Yeah.
It's within the margin of error.
Definitely.
All right. 51 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk. Here's something I bet you didn't know. There are 10 premier bridal designers that every woman knows about. They're like the Mercedes or the Louis Vuitton of engagement rings. World-class, iconic quality names like Tacori and Verragio. These designers are very hard to get. Every jewelry store wants them, but very few can make the cut. So they have to settle for lesser brands or knockoffs. Well, Genesis is the only one in this area that made the cut that meets the highest standards. Genesis is the only store that's allowed to offer these exceptional brands that women really want. Other stores are jealous of this and will try to convince you that these are more expensive and try to get you to settle for something else. But the truth is, Genesis has top-quality designer rings for under $2,000. It's not about price. It's about craftsmanship and quality and detail and individuality. So do not compromise. Don't settle. Get her a world-class ring she'll be proud to wear. Genesis Diamonds in Green Hills and Cool Springs, also home to the state's largest selection of luxury pre-owned Rolexes.
Hey everybody, Dan Mandis here. Got my first shipment of emergency food from My Patriot Supply. Gonna make these pancakes. Now you prepare and cook them just like regular pancakes. But thanks to this special packaging, they last for 25 years. So when things go wrong, you are eating right with My Patriot Supply. And yes, they taste great. Now every week, I'm going to introduce you to different food. My Patriot Supply is America's most trusted supplier of emergency food. Head on over to my website, preparewithmandis.com, right now and see all the different foods that they have and all the great specials as well. That's preparewithmandis.com. Be prepared for anything with My Patriot Supply and preparewithmandis.com.
6:01, I'm Mac Maury with your top story. 62 degrees, and it's been a wet day in Middle Tennessee. Showers are likely tonight and into tomorrow and possibly even Saturday night. And temperatures could get below freezing as well Saturday evening and Sunday evening. A traffic report plus a complete weekend weather forecast coming up in 5 minutes. Today marks 7 months since the wildfire that killed over 100 people on Maui. On this day, new technology is being deployed to detect future wildfires and to alert firefighters through text messages. Here's Alex Stone.
At no cost to Hawaii, 80 high-tech fire sensors are being deployed. 20 of them will line Maui as an early warning system. New technology developed by scientists at the Department of Homeland Security using artificial intelligence to sense smoke and particles in smoke. Dr. Dmitry Kuzniev with Homeland Security says a new technology is still evolving through computer learning to know the differences in smoke.
And what does an anomaly look like? What is a barbecue? What is a fire? What is something else?
Right now in Tennessee, Fort Campbell Sergeant and Army Intelligence Agent Corbin Schultz pleaded not guilty today to federal charges that he sold sensitive military secrets to China. The 6 federal indictments allege that Schultz began sharing documents, maps, notes, pictures, and missile tactics to China beginning in June of 2022. He did it in exchange for cash. They allege $42,000 to be exact, and that he got that money in 14 installments. The indictment mentions exchanges where Schultz told the Chinese conspirator that he wished to be Jason Bourne. Schultz will likely have a detention hearing sometime next week to determine whether he'll remain in custody until his trial. And the Senate moving forward on a package of bills to fund the government past midnight. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says the bills include funding necessary not only to keep the government funded, but to provide much-needed money for programs and resources the country depends on. After the package is passed, it'll head to President Biden's desk to be signed into law. Congress will then return to Washington next week to work on passing another 6 government funding bills that expire on March 22nd.
We have fully funded WIC, so 7 million moms and kids won't be malnourished. We've built on the infrastructure law by providing billions to repair our roads and bridges and highways. We've given our federal firefighters a raise. We'll be able to hire more air traffic controllers and rail safety inspectors. And we're taking care of our veterans with support for veterans' homelessness, mental health, and women veterans.
And some Titans sports news. Per Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, Derrick Henry, Titans legend, longtime running back for the team, is, quote, unlikely to return. Henry's the second leading rusher for the Tennessee Titans with over 8,600 yards on the ground behind Eddie George, who was able to eclipse 10,000 yards. Here is him saying goodbye to the Titans fans for probably the last time after the last game of this last season against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Titans fans, I just want to say thank you for the greatest 8 years of my life, the ups and the downs. Y'all been there for everything through the adversity. Watching me grow as a person and a player, always supporting me. I love y'all. I love seeing the 22s in the stadium. Hopefully I was an inspiration to all the young kids and everybody in the community. Just thank y'all so much. Man, God is good. And tighten up, baby.
The report does not say that the door is completely closed. That is the latest news, traffic, and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Hey, good evening, everybody. It's 8 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, and you're listening to The Drive for the last and final hour of this week before we move on to our weekend. So listen, we got a lot of stuff to cover. By the way, just moments ago here in Bucolic, Watertown, big doings downtown. Everybody has gathered at the hardware store, which has undergone new management, and they are having a little soiree at the hardware store and Masonic Temple. It serves as building, does both. It's a hardware store downstairs, a Masonic Temple upstairs, and so they unveiled the new sign just a moment ago.
Yeah, I gotta say
that was it. I mean, that was it. Crowd turned out.
Pretty snazzy sign. I like it.
It is. It's a nice looking sign. As hardware signs go, that's a real improvement for downtown Watertown right there.
I like how they incorporated the word mercantile into the sign.
Mercantile.
I'm not sure what that means. But,
I don't know. We need look that word up. I've heard it used. I don't really know the exact definition of the word mercantile. Let's see. Now that we've done this, we have to take a little
relating to trade or commerce.
Huh.
Or it means a general store.
How about that?
Kind of a dated thing, I guess. But yeah, so
mercantile.
I guess that makes sense.
Mercantile, they say.
Oh, pardon me.
Mercantile.
I don't know. I would have said tiled as well.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, all right.
All right. Well, there you go.
I'll take the dictionary's word for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a dictionary. Who are you going to argue with? The dictionary? I'm not going to argue with the dictionary. No, I mean, this is what I love about this sweet little town, is that, we're all happy that we got this hardware store that's been going through some improvements. I like the other people around the hardware store, but they decided to sell to these new folks, and they're just delightful. We've had them to the house. We've had the hardware people to our house. Part of the Christmas party. So they were there. And so, we celebrate things like, putting up a new sign. But apparently, if you can tell, I posted this on social media at Brian Wilson 997. You can see, this picture came from Cabana Wife. She's down there. There's a lot of people turned out.
Yeah, it looks like a decent crowd.
Yeah, and they've reworked the whole hardware store. So we're very excited about this.
I love a good hardware store. I worked in a hardware store in high school. And so I just kind of have a thing for a real, not the big box stores are okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
but I really like a good
hardware store.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to find.
Yep, that's right.
I tell you, one of the coolest ones I ever went to was up in Amish country, up in Pennsylvania.
Ooh, yeah.
There was and this is the kind of store that the Amish would actually come to.
Mm-hmm.
They would pull up their horse buggies and and they go in and they would talk to it wasn't run by the Amish, but the Amish will do business with the English, as they call them. The Dutch Amish will do business with the English, and the English would run this hardware. These are farmers, and they needed, like they don't believe in a lot of like using electricity and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, they needed old hand tools and stuff like that. So this hardware store really, was you could find stuff that you probably haven't seen in a hardware store in 50 years at this place. And, it is grungy and a lot of little cooks and nannies. And, I can spend an hour in a place like that.
Oh, yeah.
And you always come out with something like, I got to have this. This is something I've never seen before. I must have it.
And they always have the best stuff at the, up at the checkout area. Something that you don't see anywhere else is always an interesting product. And you go, oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, somebody came up with a good one there.
I bought at one time at a hardware store, I bought this little handheld vacuum thing. It looks like a ladybug. Or maybe it's a bumblebee. But it's like a countertop vacuum. It's got little bristles on the bottom of it, and you just run it across like your countertop.
Battery operated?
Yeah, battery operated, and it'll just suck up little crumbs or pieces of dirt or whatever. And I thought, what an ingenious little idea. So I bought one.
Yeah.
Never seen that before.
No, I've got to say, I've never seen one either. Well, anyway, if you're in Watertown, you got to come by Hamilton's Hardware of Watertown and Mercantile. Yeah. Anyway, it's exciting. I mean, I love this little town. I'm not real crazy about the blue lights, which is, I talked about this earlier. I don't want to harsh the mellow here after talking so lovingly about my town. But we found out we find out things on a delayed basis here in Watertown because our only source of information, unless you can actually go to a city council meeting, and I can never go because it's happening generally while I'm on the air. They start about 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening, and I can't go because I'm on the air. But then it takes like a month before the minutes come out, and then it takes another couple of weeks for the local paper, the Watertown Express, which is not as express as you might imagine, and so they'll print the minutes of the city council meeting. Well, I've been talking about these blue lights the police put up.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I don't really have a problem with the police putting up surveillance cameras. It is a law enforcement tool, and it can really cut down on crime. And there's no expectation of privacy on a public street anyway. The Supreme Court decided that a long time ago. So, if you're on a public street and you're doing wrong, then these things will catch you. And they have had some success with them already. I'll grant you that. But I had the early word that came out on these things when they just popped up one day was, we got a grant, we put them up, and they're just surveillance. They're not speed cameras. They're not LPRs. Turns out they are LPRs.
Ooh.
This was learned by reading the minutes from the January 31st meeting of the council. The police said they were LPRs, which okay. Again, I don't have a real problem. I know some people do. I don't have a real problem with LPRs because I think, they can really be effective in fighting crime. What I got a problem with is that these things just popped up with no discussion, no warning, no consultation with the community. In Nashville, if they're going to put up LPRs, they had meetings about it. They had discussions about it, and they have come up with a thoughtful plan. What is the thoughtful plan for Watertown? I don't know. Because they just showed up. The council never had a conversation about this. From what I've been told, the council was never notified about this. So I don't know. I have questions. I might have to take off one night and go to the next council meeting. But you know what? There's a new law in the state of Tennessee. Did you know about this? If you go to a public meeting, you have no right to speak unless it's to an item that's on the agenda. That's how they, because, I always liked the idea of a council meeting, that, at the end you could say, anybody have anything you want to talk to the council about? Because here we are all in one room, right? You can't do that anymore in the state of Tennessee. I mean, and I don't know where this law came from, but I have a feeling it came from council members who were tired of having people, yell at them in council meetings.
Yep.
And they said, we got to have something. So now, unless it's on the agenda, they just say, I'm sorry, we can't have that conversation today because it's not on the agenda. So in other words, if you want to talk about something, you have to get a council member to put it on the agenda as an item they want to discuss. And then you may be allowed to ask a question about it.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I like the idea of people being able to hold their elected leaders accountable. But that's not just in Watertown. That's everywhere. But as I understand it, the blue light cameras showed up, and nobody ever let us know that there were going to be blue light cameras that were license plate readers until they just showed up, which says to me, how does that happen? How does the police department just do that and not notify anybody and not talk to anybody, and then the council be left out of that whole conversation? They were informed after, not before.
By the way, I just got word, and I looked it up, and it is true. The city council meetings for Watertown are live streamed on YouTube.
That's true, but I'm also on the air when that's going on, so that's true. That is true.
Well, you could go back after.
I suppose.
Fact, I guess. But.
Well, okay. You make a fair point. I could play it back.
Yep.
Then I don't have to wait a month and a half for it to come up in the so-called Watertown Express.
Not so express, yeah.
Well, then it's a cute little paper. I was in the paper not long ago.
Oh, really?
I made the paper.
Was it a mugshot?
No.
Okay.
Although that could happen if I keep talking about the police department this way.
Buddy.
Yeah, the police department is going to be on my butt, for sure. No, I was helping, is that project that I was working on with the high school kids.
Right, yeah.
To tell the history of Watertown. And so, they took a picture of everybody, and it showed up, and I didn't even know it was going to show up. It showed up in the paper. And I thought that was nice.
Yeah.
That's very nice.
Local celebrity.
I can't wait to see the coverage of the new sign down at the hardware store, though.
That'll be in the the June issue?
Yeah, and by the way, we love it when we. That's right, the June issue. It'll show up in a couple of weeks. They print every other week. I think is what it is. Twice a month, probably.
All right.
But anyway, we know the other big news is we don't have many restaurants here in Watertown, but word has it there's a new sandwich shop going in Alexandria, which is just 6 miles up the road.
Oh,
we're all psyched about that.
Okay.
Cabana Wife before long will be working full time in Alexandria. So, I have a feeling there's going to be days that I might have to go up and buy her a sandwich.
Uh-huh.
At the sandwich shop, I think, but she's just going to be 6 miles from the house.
Not too bad.
That's not bad. That's good work if you're a dental hygienist and you can get work 6 miles from the house.
Not quite as good as your commute.
No, mine's only about 50 paces, but no, that's good though. That's good. She's going to be close. And that's good because we have dogs that are driving me crazy and I need her help. All right. I was going to talk about some other stuff, but we got off on a tangent, didn't we? It's already time for me to say it's now 20 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. All right, let's talk about the folks over at Beacon. They want you to discover your retirement savings potential in less than 30 seconds with a Beacon Capital Management free retirement savings calculator. This simple step-by-step calculator is easy to use. You'll get your results right away. Take the next step in your financial planning journey and see how much money you could have saved for retirement by now. And listen, maybe you need a deep dive with the good folks over at Beacon. If you do, listen, why don't you call this number, 615-488-9303. Now, they will give you, ask some questions, take some information. You have nothing to lose in this equation except perhaps the worry you have about whether or not you're going to be okay in retirement. So call the number 615-488-9303. At the end of the process, you'll be able to rest easy knowing you have a plan that meets all your retirement goals. Replace the worry with confidence that you're on the right path. The number 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon stand ready to take your stress away. And you can learn more at askbeaconnow.com.
Hey everybody, Dan Mandis here. Got my first shipment of emergency food from My Patriot Supply. Gonna make these pancakes. Now you prepare and cook them just like regular pancakes. But thanks to this special packaging, they last for 25 years. So when things go wrong, you are eating right with My Patriot Supply. And yes, they taste great. Now every week, I'm going to introduce you to different food. My Patriot Supply is America's most trusted supplier of emergency food. Head on over to my website, preparewithmandis.com, right now and see all the different foods that they have and all the great specials as well. That's preparewithmandis.com. Be prepared for anything with My Patriot Supply and preparewithmandis.com.
It is 25 minutes. I make it 25 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. This is the weekend that we do the time change, right?
Yes, daylight saving time.
Daylight saving time. I want to make sure I was right about that. And so I have a story here that tells me a lot about the history of daylight saving time. By the way, if you say daylight savings time, you're wrong.
That's correct.
There's no S on saving. It's daylight saving time because you're saving daylight is the idea. I don't know that you're really saving it. You're just kind of moving the clock around.
You're shifting it, yeah.
You're shifting it, that's right. And this started in World War I. The Germans came up with it, and actually it's been discussed before that. The United States adopted the practice in March 19th of 1918. It was used during World War I as a way to save electricity, which sort of makes sense. And then World War II, it came back, and then it fell into disuse until 1966. And LBJ signed the Uniform Time Act into law. It was the first peacetime daylight saving time law and stated that U.S. would officially observe 6 months of daylight saving time and 6 months of standard time. And it required states to adopt the daylight saving time entirely or opt out entirely. And there are states that don't participate, which is very confusing. But one way or the other, it's sort of, I have a great story about this, though. My great-great-grandfather was a farmer in Anson, Texas. And I remember going there as a child, and it was a hard scrabble life they had, in a little farm and dry land farming. And they came from the old country, and I never could figure out what the old country was. Nobody could ever, they would never tell us what the old country was. But I never got a straight answer. I think they may have been German, and because of World War II, I think they were reluctant to discuss that they were German. I think that's probably what it was. But I don't know for sure. So anyway, my great-grandfather, without fail, came in from the field every day, and they had the big meal at lunch. And if there were farmhands working there during that time, then the farmhands would come in, and my great-grandmother would put on a spread. I mean, they ate a big old meal. I remember they still had like a pump handle in the kitchen. Wow. That's how rustic it was. They actually pumped water from the well into the house with a pump handle. Unbelievable. But anyway, so then he would sit down and listen to Paul Harvey on the radio. Never missed an episode of Paul Harvey News and Commentary at straight up noon. That's when it played. And every time zone, it played at noon.
He had to get the rest of the story.
That's right. He had to get the rest of the story. That's right. And so he loved listening to Paul Harvey. Then 1966 comes along, and they've got this newfangled thing they're talking about called daylight saving time, and he wasn't going to have any part of it. He said, this is unnatural. You can't move things around. And so he refused to participate in daylight saving time until he came home and missed Paul Harvey. And then he decided, well, maybe I can just make the adjustment because I want to listen to Paul Harvey. So that's how my great-grandfather got used to the idea. Because Paul Harvey was on daylight saving time.
Yep. Took Paul Harvey to get him in line.
Anyway, you may have heard that this was put forth by farmers. Not really. Not really. Farmers hated it. Farmers didn't like it by and large and fought it. But it didn't matter. A lot of people say that it really is because of commerce, because if people can get out in the evening, they're likely to spend money. So businesses apparently like the idea of the Commerce Department, the Chamber of Commerce, those folks, they all liked it. But it's been in place since 1966. And as you know, the important thing you must do is you have to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, it's Sunday morning, and spring and run your clocks back 1 hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, you remember
you're
supposed to spring back. Isn't that right?
Sure. Yeah. Let's go with that.
Yeah, you do that.
Let's just see how that works out for you.
Spring back, everybody. No, it's spring forward, fall back. And so you spring forward, go forward 1 hour, And you don't have to really get up at 2 o'clock in the morning. Just do it before you go to bed. But actually today, most time, it's just every clock is digital. You usually, the clock you use is your phone, right?
Yep.
It's automatically updated.
Yep. The only ones are those the dadgum microwave and the stove.
Yeah.
I hate those clocks.
Yeah.
'Cause I have
you
to
gotta
change them.
You got to reset them. I never look at them anyway. I don't trust them. 30 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. You know, I'm in the middle of my journey to lose weight with help from the folks at Restoration Wellness Med Spa in Lebanon. Good people. Carly and Jamie, they are really working with me to sort of fine-tune the whole process right now. I've never taken on a weight loss client before, but I really like Carly and Jamie and the folks there and the way they take this approach with me. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. They took the time to look at my history and my lifestyle, and then they customize a plan that best fits my needs. It's a customized treatment plan. Now, in the coming days, I'll be sharing with you. I'm about to have a weigh-in here pretty soon. I'll tell you how it's going. I feel like it's making some improvements. Why don't you do what I did, though, in the meantime? Set up an appointment to develop your customized treatment plan at Restoration Wellness Med Spa. Be a part of the more than 1,000 patients who've already seen life-changing results. Now, whether your goal is to lose stubborn body fat or improve your overall health, Restoration Wellness has a solution for you. Take advantage of the newest ideas in weight loss management. 615-470-8124. Learn more at restorationwellnessmedspa.com. Chris and I trying to do hard math during the commercial break.
That's always fun.
I mean, listen, I'm telling you, math, not my thing. The reason I'm trying to figure out some statistics here is that I got a story here from the Tennessee Star talking about the mayor of Nashville, Freddie O'Connell, is apparently committed to funding his proposed transportation initiative, which we still don't have a lot of details about what's in it. There's some loose ideas, but nothing has been firmed up in the way of a firm proposal. But he's got to find a way to pay for it. And apparently what he wants to do is add an additional 0.5% tax on purchases for the city's Central Business Improvement District. Now, right now, Tennessee imposes a state sales tax of 7%. Davidson County adds another 2.25%, which means that if you buy things in Nashville, it's 9.25%. That adds up in a hurry, you know. Actually, that's pretty high. And this, however, the idea is to add another 0.5% to it, which would bring it up to 9.75% or nearly 10%. Then they have all these, you know, that's how he would pay for it. But he has to convince people, and I think the recommendation I would say to the mayor is before you come and ask us for money, you better explain a little bit what you're going to get for your bang for your buck. Look, I don't have great confidence that really seriously our transportation issues are going to be solved in this region by just doing a few things in Nashville. I mean, can you make things in Nashville a little better? I think it's potentially possible, but I think what they're talking about is an upgrade of public transportation, which I'm not sure. I've never been a big fan of the idea of public transportation. I think it works in some places. I'm not sure it works here in Nashville. And when you talk about public transportation, you're not talking about light rail, or maybe there is a light rail component to it that would run back and forth from the airport. There's been some talk of that. But I think, you're talking about buses. And I'm not sure that buses are the answer. I've just never been convinced that buses actually, all I know is every time I see a bus, I try to see how many people are on the bus. What I see is a lot of empty bus. I'm not saying there aren't people on it. Just seems like there aren't many people on it. But again, I'm not down there every day, but that's just been my observation. I need to be brought along here, Mayor. I really do. So that's one of the things that we were trying to figure out. But get ready, because if to do this, whatever plan they come up with, they're talking about increasing the sales tax downtown to essentially 10%, 9.75. That's high. Let's see what else we got. I'm fascinated by this story out of Fort Campbell. This soldier, an Army intelligence analyst accused of selling sensitive military secrets to China, has pleaded not guilty to federal charges. Corbijn Schultz, an Army intelligence agent at Fort Campbell, was arrested Thursday morning for allegedly selling national intelligence information to a Chinese co-conspirator. 6-count federal indictment unsealed Thursday. He shared documents, maps, notes, pictures, missile tactics, and received thousands of dollars. He traded our national defense information for cash, says U.S. Attorney Henry C. Leventis. He was paid $42,000 in 14 installments. The indictment mentions exchanges where Schultz tells the Chinese co-conspirator that he wishes to be Jason Bourne. This was a sensitive stuff that had apparently some of the information I've read in other reports had to do with our plans for fighting the Chinese over Taiwan if it ever came to that, and what we would do and how would we respond. And that's pretty sensitive information right there that gives the Chinese a leg up. So very serious thing happening out there at Fort Campbell. And again, a real tragedy for our national security. On the lighter side, the Grand Ole Opry House, not the Ryman, but the what we call the new Opry. That's what I call it. The new Opry House. It's not so new. It's 50 years old. That's right. March 16th, it's a few days from now, will mark the half century for the 99-year-old Grand Ole Opry program at 2804 Opryland Drive. It's the sixth home since the show was initially broadcast as a barn dance in 1925. 1974 is when it opened up.
It seems newer than that.
It does to me too.
Yeah.
But no, it is. We still talk about it. I call it the new Opry House because I still think of the Ryman as the Opry. I love the Ryman. I don't have any problem with the other Opry House. I've been there as well.
That's very nice.
Fine.
Yeah,
it's nice. It's a good venue. I love the fact that they took the Circle out at the Ryman and moved it over to the new place. But it's not a new place. It's 50 years old. I remember in 1974. I remember I think when that's right. 5 decades ago, March 16th, Roy Acuff, Jeannie Seeley, and President Richard Nixon were among the guests at the Opry's first edition at the 4,400-seat Grand Ole Opry House. Nixon is the only president to have ever performed there because, he could play piano.
Really? I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, he could play the piano. He played My Wild Irish Rose and God Bless America on the Opry's upright piano, and also played Happy Birthday to honor First Lady Pat Nixon. Nixon also received a yo-yo lesson from Roy Acuff.
I bet that was entertaining.
Yeah. Well, tell me how you do the yo-yo to go up and down like that. Oh, that's amazing. That's bad. Very bad. Very bad, Richard Nixon. So, I'm getting excited because April 8th, not far from here, the total eclipse of the sun. It's going to be cool. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to be gone that day. I'm taking that day off.
Okay. All right.
I'm going to go to Henderson, Kentucky. I'm going to get up early. I'm going to drive all the way to Henderson, Kentucky, and I'm going to pull my my folding chair out of the back of my truck, and I'm going to experience 2 minutes and 31 seconds of totality.
And then what?
Then I'm going to drive back. It's the 3 hours up and 3 hours back. But I mean, I think this is about one of the coolest things ever. When we did the other one, it's 2017, I think it was, about a year before I got here in Nashville. We had one that came right through Nashville. And I was living in Florida at the time, and I drove up. I drove up all the way into Middle Tennessee from Florida to experience totality. It's one of the most remarkable things that I've ever seen, and I want to do it again. I mean, how many times do you get to see a total eclipse of the sun? It's such a rare thing, and to have one not that far away, I'm definitely going.
It was an interesting thing. That was the one back in 2017 was the first one that I'd ever witnessed that I can remember, and it was an interesting event.
Well, did you notice how quiet it got? Like the birds quit chirping and everything got really quiet.
I didn't notice that.
In the country where I was, I noticed that it's like everything just got silent. Very weird. Well, anyway, scientists are very curious to find out what happens with animals. When a total solar eclipse transformed day into night, animals act differently. Researchers will be standing by to observe how animals' routines at the Fort Worth Zoo are disrupted when the skies dim on April 8th. They said some people have detected strange animal behaviors in 2017 when that South Carolina zoo was in the path of total darkness. Most of the animals did surprising things. Huh.
Well, they didn't know what was going on, I bet.
I bet. Very surprised by it. A mated pair of Siamese gibbons that usually call to each other in the morning sang unusual tunes during the afternoon eclipse. And a few male giraffes began to gallop in apparent anxiety. And the flamingos huddled around their juveniles. Anyway, yeah. But apparently Fort Worth is going to get, I think, is either in totality or close. That's interesting. Honeybees studied decreased foraging during the eclipse, as they usually would at night. It really throws, I guess, the entire rhythms of life. The circadian rhythms. If you're an animal and you count on certain things being true, and all of a sudden the thing that you're expecting to be true is not true anymore, I would imagine it was, confusing, make them act strangely. Also, we also talk here on the program from time to time about the truth being out here. The truth is out there, Well, I don't know, maybe it is or maybe it's not, because there's a new report out from the Pentagon that says, well, the truth is not out here. Now,
okay.
Here's the thing. They're not saying that there aren't UAPs. There are UAPs, and we don't know what they are. But what they're saying in this report is there's no evidence to support claims that shadowy elements inside the U.S. government have made contact with alien life forms or have reverse-engineered extraterrestrial spaceships or have systematically hidden information from the American public for decades, according to a remarkable new Pentagon report issued Friday. Now, there are things we don't understand, but if you think that, there's a shadowy, hidden programs within the government, exactly what they would want you to believe. The study was delivered to lawmakers last week, released online today, comes just a few months after stunning public testimony before Congress in which former U.S. officials claim knowledge of such highly classified programs. But in the report, the Pentagon said there is no evidence to back up those allegations. AARO found no empirical evidence for claims that the U.S. government and private companies have been reverse engineering extraterrestrial technology. And based on the information provided to date, claims involving specific people, known locations, and technological tests and documents allegedly involved in or related to the reverse engineering of extraterrestrial technology are inaccurate.
Sure it is.
A lot of people are going to say, see, there's nothing to it, but they're not saying that UAPs are not real. They're just saying we don't have a secret program. I don't believe them. 50 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock.
Hey everybody, Dan Mandis here. Got my first shipment of emergency food from My Patriot Supply. Gonna make these pancakes. Now you prepare and cook them just like regular pancakes. But thanks to the special packaging, they last for 25 years. So when things go wrong, you are eating right with My Patriot Supply. And yes, they taste great. Now every week, I'm going to introduce you to different food. My Patriot Supply is America's most trusted supplier of emergency food. Head on over to my website, preparewithmandis.com, right now and see all the different foods that they have and all the great specials as well. That's preparewithmandis.com. Be prepared for anything with My Patriot Supply and preparewithmandis.com.